I now please check that the live stream has started? Live music? Thank you. I will now go to each member of the council to confirm that they can hear and be heard. This is a legal requirement for me to do so. Please verbally confirm that you are able to hear me, and I will confirm, in response, that I can hear you. Councillor Paul Andrews.
Good morning, Chairman. I can hear and see you clearly.
Thank you, and I can hear and see you as well. Excellent. Councillor Polly Andrews.
Good morning. I can hear and see you, Chairman.
I can hear and see you too, Councillor. Councillor Jenny Bartlett.
Good morning, Chairman. Yes, I can hear and see you.
Thank you, and I can hear and see you as well. Councillor Christy Bulderson.
Morning, Chairman. I can hear and see you.
Good, I can hear and see you as well. Excellent. Councillor Dave Bolter.
Good morning, Chair. I can hear and see you.
Good, I can hear and see you as well. Thank you. Councillor Tracy Bowes.
Good morning, Merry Christmas, Chair. I can see and hear you.
Thank you for your greetings, and to you as well, and to you all for that matter. And I can see and hear you very well. Councillor Ellie Chance.
Morning, Chair. I can hear and see you. Thanks.
Good, I can hear and see you as well. Thank you. Councillor Pauline Crockett.
Morning, Chair. Yes, I can hear and see you.
Good, I can hear and see you as well. Councillor Gemma Davis.
Morning, Chair. I can see and hear you.
Good, I can see and hear you too. And what are you wearing? Something amazing in your hair. And, oh yes, all sorts of decorations. Good. Councillor Barry Durkin.
Merry Christmas, everybody. I can see and hear you, Chairman.
Good, I can see and hear you too, Councillor. I hope you're feeling reasonably well.
Thank you so much.
And Councillor Tony Fagan.
Morning, Chair. I can see and hear you.
Good, I can see and hear you as well. Councillor Elizabeth Foxton.
Morning, Chair. I can see and hear you.
I can see and hear you too. And are you wearing something gaudy?
I am indeed.
Oh yes, very good. Very colourful. Councillor Carol Gandy.
Morning, Chairman. I can see and hear you.
I can see and hear you too, and see your excellent Christmas jersey. Good. Councillor Kema Guthrie.
Good morning, Chairman. Happy Christmas, everyone. I can see and hear you, Chairman.
I can see and hear you too. Thank you very much. Councillor John Hardwick.
Good morning, Chairman. I can see and hear you clearly.
Good. Oh my gosh, yes. quite a jersey there as well, Councillor Hardwick. I can see and hear you too, and probably see and hear your jersey, I think. Councillor John Harrington.
Good morning, Chairman. I can see and hear you. Thank you.
I can see and hear you too. And are you arrayed suitably for Christmas or just your usual self? Thank you. Councillor Liz Harvey.
Can see and hear you, Chair.
I can see and hear you too. Thank you. Councillor Jenny Hewitt.
Good morning, Chair. I can see and hear you. Thank you.
I can see and hear you too. Thank you. Councillor Kath Hay.
Good morning, Chair. I can see and hear you in wonderful Technicolor this morning.
I can see and hear you too. Are you wearing wonderful Technicolor as well? Oh, yes. Yes, well done. Councillor David Hitchener.
Yes, I can see and hear you, Chairman. Thank you.
I can see and hear you too, and all your amazing snowy glory. Councillor Philip Howells. Councillor Philip Howells. Councillor Howells, can we hear and see you? I cannot see or hear you at all at the moment. Are you even here? We shall put your query by you. Councillor Helen Ianson. I know you were here earlier on. Councillor Helen Ianson.
Sorry, did you not hear? I can see and hear you, Chairman.
I can see and hear you now. Couldn't see and hear you before. Councillor Terry James.
I can see and hear you, Chairman.
I can see and hear you too. Good. Councillor Peter Ginman. Councillor Ginman. Are you there, Councillor Ginman? We need to have you, mark you as absent at the moment, I think. Councillor Tony Johnson.
I can see and hear you, Chairman. Thank you.
I can see and hear you too. Thank you very much. Councillor Graham Jones. There's obviously problems here somewhere.
Chairman, my apologies. Give his apologies. I should have let you know before. So apologies from Graham Jones. Sorry.
Right. Thank you. Councillor Mike Jones.
Yeah, good morning, Chairman. I can see and hear you.
Good. I can see and hear you too. Councillor Jim Kenyon. Councillor Kenyon? Is it Councillor Kenyon, can you see or hear me? I can't see or hear you at the moment. I can mark you as absent. Councillor Jonathan Lester.
Chairman, I am here.
You are here, thank you.
Yeah, there's a problem with my mute button.
Right.
I do need to leave the meeting before the end. I've got a prior engagement.
That's fine. Thank you for telling me. We can see and hear you now as well. Thank you. I shall scrub that. Yes, Councillor Jonathan Lester.
Thank you, Chairman. I can see and hear you.
I can see and hear you too. Thank you. Councillor Trish Marsh.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I can see and hear you.
And I can see and hear some extraordinary construction upon your head. Is it a wild bird or is it what is it?
It's reindeer.
A reindeer, is it? Oh, I see. Yes, it's difficult to determine at this rather small screen. Thank you. Councillor Bob Matthews.
Yeah, can see and hear you, Chairman. Thank you.
I can see and hear you too. Councillor Mark Milmore.
Chairman, Councillor Milmore will have to send his apologies, I'm afraid, today.
Right. Thank you. Councillor Jeremy Milne.
Yes, Chair, I can see and hear you. And for the record, I'm in the stripes of the late Professor Mick Aston, who of Time Team fame, who was always...
That's very spectacular. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Milne. And tell us, you'll have to tell us more about this amazing character later on. Councillor Felicity Norman.
Hello, everyone. Happy Christmas. Yes, I can see and hear you.
And we can see and hear you too. Councillor Roger Phillips.
Yes, I can see and hear you, Chairman.
Good. I can see and hear you as well. Thank you. Councillor Tim Price.
I can see and hear you, Chairman.
I can see and hear you too. Councillor Paul Roan.
Morning, Chair. Morning, colleagues. Season's greetings and all that stuff. I can see and hear you.
Good. And the same greetings back to you as well. Councillor Alan Selden.
Yes, good morning, everyone. Happy Christmas, and I can see with sound and vision, Chairman.
Good, excellent. I can see and hear you as well, and we've seen your amazing jersey. Yes, flashing. Councillors flashing like that is very welcome. Councillor Nigel Shaw.
Good morning, Chair. I can see and hear you.
I can see and hear you too. Thank you. Councillor Louis Stark.
Morning, Chair. I can see and hear you.
I can see and hear you too. Councillor John Stone.
Morning, Mr. Chairman. I can hear and see you.
I can see and hear you as well. Thank you. Councillor David Summers.
Merry Christmas, everyone. I can see and hear you.
Good. I can see and hear you too. Thank you. Councillor Alyssa Swinglehurst.
Morning, Chairman. I can see and hear you.
I can see and hear you too. Thank you. Councillor Paul Simons.
Morning, Chair. I can see and hear you. Thank you.
I can see and hear you too. Has it snowed behind you, or was that just a picture?
It's just a picture from 2010 when the Y froze over.
Yes, thank you. Councillor Kevin Tillett.
Good morning, Chair. I can hear and see you. Thank you.
I can see and hear you too. Thank you. Councillor Diana Toynbee.
Good morning, Chair. I can see you and hear you. Thank you.
Thank you. I can see and hear you as well. Councillor Angie Tyler.
Morning, Chair. I can see and hear you too.
I can see and hear you as well. And you've got a, what are you wearing today? It's something spectacularly Christmassy, I think. Well done.
I've got my little flashing angel on my shoulder.
Well done. Councillor Yolandi Watson.
Yes, good morning, Chair. I can hear you and see you.
And I can see and hear you as well. And you're wearing something colourful also, I can see. Councillor William Wilding.
Good morning, Chair. Yeah, I can see and hear you. I haven't got a jumper, so I've just pinned a few Christmas lights on my backdrop.
Thank you very much. Yes, they're very visible, as are you, and I can hear you as well. Thank you. And I would like to welcome everyone to today's virtual meeting, and proper Christmas greetings to you all as well. And may you have an excellent Christmas after rather a grisly year. The Council is video and audio streaming this meeting live on the internet and making an official recording. The recording forms part of the public record of the meeting. Please note that it is a legal requirement that every member attending virtual meetings is able to hear and, where practicable, see and be heard and, where practicable, be seen by the other members in attendance and the public watching. So I ask that you please have your audio switched on, and where you are able to do so, you also have your video enabled. For virtual meetings, there are a number of additional points for members of the Council and officers to be aware of.
Chairman.
Yes?
Sorry to interrupt. There's been a number of members who have joined during your roll call. Could I just ask that there are a number of members confirm that they can
Yes.
be heard and be seen?
I would like that. Who are they?
So we've got Councillor Bartram. I'm not sure whether he is here.
I'm here, Mr. Chairman.
Can we
and
see
I
you?
can see and hear you.
Yes, I can see and hear you now as well. Thank you.
Thank you. We've got Councillor Philip Howells.
Councillor Philip
Yes,
Howells.
Yes, good morning, Chairman. Yes, I can see and hear you.
I can see and hear you now as well.
Councillor Peter Ginman.
Councillor Ginman.
Yes. Hello, good morning. I can now see and hear you.
And we see and hear you arrayed in all your Christmas glory.
I believe,
Thank you.
Chairman, that's all members present.
Thank you. That's good to hear. As part of our meeting etiquette and in line with our normal committee practices, all microphones, apart from mine, will be placed on mute at the start and during the meeting. Democratic Services will invite members to unmute their microphones to contribute to a debate. Where a member has raised their virtual hand or a point of order, where members exceed the time limit for speeches, their microphone will be placed on mute after a brief period of grace. When you wish to speak, please use the blue hand button against your name in the participants list, which should be on the right of your screens. I will then invite you to speak in order of hands being raised. Private chat has been enabled for this meeting. Please can members ensure that the facility is only used to communicate with me as the chairman via Mr. Coleman, to raise a point of order or to explain that you need to leave the meeting. Voting will be undertaken electronically using the voting software within the virtual meeting platform. All members must vote to ensure the validity of the polls taken. In the event that electronic voting is not possible to use, or there is a technical failure, I will ask each member, by means of a roll call, to indicate if they are for, against, or are abstaining. Now we come to item number 1, apologies for absence. I've received apologies from Councillor Graham Andrews and also Councillor Matthews. You said, who was it now?
Councillor Graham Jones.
Councillor Graham Jones. Thank you very much indeed. And that is no other apologies for absence. In which case I'll go to item 2, declarations of interest. And this item is to receive any declarations of interest by members in respect of items on this agenda. If any member does need to leave the meeting while an item is discussed, they will be placed in the virtual waiting room until that item has been concluded. Members who have declared an interest and withdrawn from the meeting will be readmitted once the item has been concluded. Now, do any members have any interests to declare? No? No interest to declare?
Chairman,
Yes? Councillor Kenyon.
I'm a premise licence holder. However, I don't think it stops me as a non-pecuniary the ability to comment on it.
Right.
I
The
will
licensing.
abstain from the vote. I will abstain from the vote, though.
Right. And for members declaring an interest, please complete the template, which will be emailed to you and return it to Democratic Services. So if you can remember to do that, please, Councillor Kenyon. Thank you very much. Now come to item 3.
Sorry, Chair, I put my blue hand up, which is
Oh,
what
sorry, I
members
missed
do
you.
rather than wave, and so is Councillor Stone, I believe.
Oh, right. Sorry, my apologies. Councillor Rowan, you were first.
Yes, the same as I've always done. I have a Schedule 1 declaration of interest as I hold various different licenses with the local authority. It was very kind of Governance Services or somebody from Claire Ward's team to just email me to remind me, although I haven't forgot over the last 9 years. But I will be dropping out or going and making tea and toast. All right.
Thank you very much. And the same, if you can fill in your form as well. Councillor Stone.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm Treasurer of the Village Hall, so I feel I ought to declare an interest on the licensing item.
Interesting thought. Yes, thank you. That's appreciated. And the same thing if you will fill in the form and send it back to Democratic Services. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman.
Any other people I've forgotten or not omitted to see? No. We'll go then to item 3, the minutes.
Chair, Councillor Polly Andrews has got her hand up also.
Right. Sorry, I can't see him on the screen for the moment. Councillor Andrews.
I'm also chairman of a community hall.
Right. So you'll be declaring a non-pecuniary interest.
Non-pecuniary interest, yes.
Fine. Thank you very much indeed. And the usual warning about sending the form back, please. Thank you. Any more?
Yes, I mean, if we're starting on village halls, I need to declare an interest that I'm secretary of village hall, and my husband is the booking secretary of village hall.
Well, fine. Thank you. Anybody? Any more offers of?
Yeah, my wife is chair of the village hall community.
Right.
I see. So I'm not sure where I stand on that one.
I think we'll take technical advice from Councillor Ward, from our solicitor on that.
If any councillor holds a premises licence, I would suggest that's a Schedule 1 interest and they should withdraw from the debate and not vote. If it is actually a Schedule 2 interest because of being a member of a organisation that may hold events that requires a licence, I would say it's a Schedule 2 interest and there's no requirement to leave the room.
Right, thank you. Councillor Jones, I see your hand is up.
Yes, I'm treasurer of the Community Association Village Hall, and I obtain a licence each year. So,
right, thank you. Same applies. Councillor Bowes.
I'm not sure if it's a Schedule 1 or 2, but my partner holds a premises licence.
Thank you. I'm sure Mrs. Ward can elaborate on that.
That'll be a Schedule 2 interest.
Right. Thank you. Councillor Bartlett.
Yes, Chair, I think it's possibly a Schedule 2. I'm trustee of the Leominster Community Centre, which also holds a premise licence.
Fine, thank you. Councillor Fagan.
Thank you. I've got a Schedule 2 interest as I'm a trustee of the Lanwarn Village Hall.
Thank you. Councillor Kenyon.
Thank you, Chairman. Just based on what the council solicitor said about withdrawing, I feel, I'll happily withdraw from the meeting, but I've got 20 years experience in licensing. I haven't had an opportunity up to now to say anything about my thoughts about the licensing and the like. So I'm not sure what I need to do. You can either listen to my 20 years experience in licensing of what I might have to say, or push me out of the meeting, which I think is ridiculous.
Our County Secretary and Solicitor, what do you think?
Yeah, I completely understand your position, but because you have that experience as an individual, it's a Schedule 1 interest and you do have to leave. That's the Code of Conduct, I'm afraid.
Okay, I will. Well, there's no real point in me being in the meeting then, because that's the main bit of it. So I'll just leave the meeting completely. But I'd just like to say, I think
there are other items on the agenda besides licensing, and one or two that I think are worthwhile.
Well, I'll hang on it, but it's the main item, and I've got other meetings to go to. But I just think it's ridiculous. It needs to be looked into. If you want experience of councillors giving their experience across a wide area of the council's remit, we should be able to, and not close down. So,
well, perhaps you might be kind enough to give a summary of your opinions and your experiences to our Secretary and Solicitor, and we can then perhaps take note of them. And
that's not the way it's done, Chairman. You know it.
But I'm sorry, this is the way we have to go. It is the legal way, and I'm sure Mrs. Ward will elaborate on that if we need to. Do you want to make any further comments on that?
No, it's our Code of Conduct. I'm willing to talk to Councillor Kenyon outside of this meeting.
Fine, thank you very much indeed. Councillor Kenyon, I hope you will have a conversation with Mrs. Ward later on.
Yeah, can I just say, Chair, I totally agree with what Councillor Kenyon's saying. Between myself is 50 years of experience. I do realise, and we are very lucky, we have got an excellent licensing section. They're a little bit hard in times, but they are straightforward and easily contactable. But half a century of experience here, and we have to leave. You wouldn't have that in any other part of the council, and it is really defeating the object, and we should be taken at face value.
I understand entirely what you're saying, but I think we'll have to leave that probably. Is it to higher legislation, or can we change it ourselves?
No, it's statutory instrument. I will talk to both councillors about this.
Thank you very much indeed. We do appreciate your vast experience, and we very much like to have the benefit of it too. And I hope one day we can get that. Councillor Norman.
Thank you, Chair. Just to declare an interest as a member of the Management Committee of Grange Court, which holds licence.
Right, thank you. Do we have any other declarations of interest? Councillor Shaw.
It's more of a point of order, Mr. Chair, that any councillor can, with your indulgence, deliver a personal statement. So I'm not suggesting perhaps for this meeting, but perhaps going forwards, they could deliver a personal statement at this time of the meeting relevant to whatever section that they're excluded from. And that might, I don't know if Claire Ward wants to consider that, but that might be a way around it. Thank you.
I think, Mrs. Ward, would you give us your opinion on that? If not now,
I think the better way to deal with this, and I'm sorry that this is being dealt with on the day, would be to consider whether those two councillors are entitled to a dispensation from the Audit and Governance Committee. That's what I'll pursue.
That sounds like a very good way forward, and I hope we can do that in future. That sounds, but thank you for your intervention there. I have no more hands up. No, in which case I will go to the minutes, item 3. And I will shortly ask the Council to confirm the minutes of the meeting of the 9th of October. The monitoring officer has received a query on the accuracy of the minutes, and the following change is proposed. And the wording, the leader explained that the Council did not want to repay the money and was attempting to use it in accordance with the initial objectives, to be replaced with the wording, the leader explained that the Council will be using all arguments at his disposal to resist the claim. Can Democratic Services confirm the voting numbers?
I can't see the poll.
Can we have confirmation of the voting numbers? And then we have the voting options. For, against, and abstain have been added to the electronic voting system. The options are now on screen. If you are unable to see the voting options, please access the poll icon at the bottom of your screen.
Chairman, I can confirm there's 48 members eligible to vote and they can all vote now.
Thank you. Please can members vote to agree the minutes of the last meeting, subject to the change proposed, by selecting for, against, or abstain. Please cast your vote and ensure you press submit after selecting the option for which you are voting. Are all the votes in?
All the votes are in, Chairman.
And can the monitoring officer declare the results, please?
We have 46 votes for, 2 abstentions, so the minutes are passed.
Thank you very much indeed. That's fine. And now we come to Chairman and Chief Executive's announcements, item 4 on your agenda. I have been doing some of the official duties which I'm interested in doing, and perhaps some of the more significant ones were the Field of Remembrance service at Hereford Cathedral, which was a moving ceremony in the cathedral gardens, and we also did a remembrance service in St. Peter's Square, and Great Western Railways very kindly invited us to present a wreath for display in Paddington Station, and the Lord Lieutenant, the Colonel of the Rifles, and the Chairman of the British Legion, and myself turned up at 6:30 on the 11th of November and reverently placed a wreath in the first-class compartment of the special train for Paddington. And apparently there was a very good display in Paddington, and it was a very fine piece of work. And we much appreciate Great Western Railways doing this special occasion for us, I think. I think it was a very good and generous idea on their part. And I hope we'll do it again next year. And also, I was invited to speak at the Herefordshire Federation of Women's Institutes. Quite a terrifying occasion, but none of them threw rock buns, and I think it all went quite well. So that was quite an impressive occasion. Another Zoom occasion rather than being live. And now we come to the Chief Executive's announcements. But before that, I just want to say a few words, if I may. Is the Chief Executive here? I hope he is.
Yes, I am indeed, Chairman.
Good. Well, Chief Executive, Alistair Neil, George Medal, the Chief Executive of Herefordshire Council, and this is to be the last, well, the penultimate full council meeting that our CEO, Alistair McNeil, GM, will attend, and I and others would like to say a few words in his honour. First, he's a man of considerable character. He was awarded the George Medal for a remarkable act of astonishing courage. And he came to Herefordshire with a wealth of experience of both the public and private sector. And soon after his arrival, the council was hit by massive spending cuts imposed by the government. And he and his various team members and the council administration have achieved wonders in keeping us solvent and viable. And he has done much to inspire continuous improvement. I think the apogee of his career so far has been his truly admirable and determined handling of the COVID-19 crisis in Herefordshire. I'm sure his leadership and planning has had a great effect in keeping this county among the top performers. I wish him very well and the best of health in his retirement. I have a feeling that he will not be allowed to rest too long before he is summoned back to work in some guise or other. Alistair, I hope you remember to treasure your leisure, and we will always be grateful for your massive input into Herefordshire Council and the whole of Herefordshire. Give us a passing thought from time to time and keep in touch, and our very best wishes go with you. Now, I have some other people who wish to say some words as well. I'll call upon Councillors Johnson, James, Matthews, Lester, Hitchener, and I will ask for anybody else, it might be Councillor Chowns as well, who would like to say any words. Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm aware of the pressure on time, so I was going to talk about Alistair's personal qualities, etc., but I'll cut those out, so that will shorten what I have to say by about 5 seconds, I would think. There is, however, one attribute which I'm mentioning, and Alistair is a Scot, proudly claims to be one, but I've always had a sneaky feeling that there must be a little bit of Irish in there somewhere, because he's certainly got the gift of the gab, which people in the council would attest. It happens, it's pure coincidence. Alistair and I started in our respective jobs as CEO and leader of the council together in 2013. And as you said, Chairman, they were most difficult times with cash being cut drastically, West Midlands Combined Authority, will we join or not, staff costs, potholes, small holding, you name it, it was a load of trouble. Present administration has got COVID, and I don't envy David Hitchener and his team, that particular one, but nothing really changes. There are always problems, and if there weren't, they wouldn't need chief execs and leaders of councils. Now, I've been a director of a banking group myself with very focused objectives, where your job was only as good as the last half year's figures. So I know what it's like, and that's where Alistair comes from as well. It was always difficult to settle into those sorts of organisations. But when I came here to leader of this council, I settled in very quickly, and that was very, very largely due to Alistair's help. He made it easier for me and many others who may never appreciate the help and contribution that he has made to this council. If anybody has had senior responsibility in the private sector, you will recognise immediately that same experience in Alistair, which has been used very much to the benefit of Herefordians. As you said, Chairman, on COVID alone, he did an absolutely first-class job. For me, it's been a personal and a professional pleasure to work with someone who really knows his job. And on behalf of all residents of Herefordshire and myself, many, many thanks, Alistair, and the very best wishes to you and your family in whatever it is you choose to do.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. You will have a chance to come back later on, Alistair. Councillor James.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to add to what Councillor Johnson has just said. Whilst not having worked as closely with Alistair as Councillor Johnson, I must say he is in little part responsible for the financial situation we find ourselves in at this moment. That sounds not a compliment, but I have to say that the situation at the moment is, relative to other councils in the country, substantially better. And that's in no way, no small part, the responsibility of Alistair on his management of the council, but especially over the last 6 months, his handling of the COVID crisis has been exemplary. I wish to thank him, and I think ultimately, historically, we will be grateful to him for his handling of this situation. But on a personal level, although I've not been a member of any of the administrations during his tenure as chief executive, I've always found him courteous, polite, and reasonable to deal with. And in the last 6 months, I found him, the last 2 years, shall we say, nearly 2 years, I found him particularly helpful in the current council. I wish him well. I'm sure he will go to a better life, which means he'll probably be employed as consultants in various bodies around the country, and I hope he'll enjoy his semi-retirement. Good wishes.
Thank you. Councillor Matthews.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I would also like to thank him for his many years of service, also for the support and encouragement he gave me excuse me, during my recent difficult times. And also, as it's already been said, most of it's been said, Chairman, for all his hard work and dedication during the serious COVID crisis. He's done a wonderful job and led from the front. Alistair will be the first to know and recognise that him and I have disagreed on numerous occasions, and I think that's healthy and democratic to have that sort of approach in local government. But we've always retained mutual respect, and we've always had an excellent relationship. And when we've had differences, we've sat down and talked them through, and that's the way our things should be done. Alistair, I'm sure, as colleagues have said, it won't be long before you take up another position of responsibility in some role. You're too talented to be left on the sidelines for long. Alistair, I wish you a very happy retirement and a happy future for you and your family. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Matthews. Councillor Lester.
Thank you, Chair. I'm delighted to be able to say a few words. I completely agree with all of the things that have been said. One of the great qualities you need as a chief executive is to be able to talk the talk. That's necessary to instill confidence in everybody and to tell everybody where we're going with confidence. But Alistair also walks the walk. He puts so much time and energy into doing the hard work, and that's what's probably not noticed sometimes by people, but there's an immense amount of energy and drive that Alistair has always put into working for this council. And by golly, haven't we given him some challenges over the years, and he's met all of them with aplomb. I think that the COVID crisis that he's coped with admirably and showed great leadership with is just one example of how over the years he's had to face many challenges with Herefordshire. The financial changes to the council have had immense pressure on the way we've done things. And Alistair has met those challenges and then some, and been largely responsible for making sure that the council carries on regardless in delivering all of those key services. That's no mean feat. That would be difficult enough in just 1 year, but to do it constantly in all of the years that Alistair has given us service is a huge feat, and it's something that we should be very grateful for. You could think of many phrases that you would use to describe someone in their doing their diligent duty, but the two things that strike me is that, well, first of all, Alistair is a compassionate human being, and that shines through in all the things that he's done. But the one thing that makes me smile, and it is the quality you need most of all, is I think Alistair's unflappable. And that's the thing I think that has seen him through whilst having to deal with the likes of us. So I am sure that you will be going on to hopefully more leisure, and we both share a love of France. So I hope you are able to enjoy France more. But whatever you do, rest assured that you've done your utmost for Herefordshire, and we will be forever grateful. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lester. And I do hope that we'll all be able to go to France one of these days, if we wish to, and not be prevented by hideous restrictions on our freedom of movement. Who knows? But that's something, a different matter. Councillor Hitchener, did you wish to say some words?
Yes, I'd just like to echo a lot of the sentiments. It's just been an extraordinary last 6 months, Alistair, with COVID. I think it's just extraordinary the way you've responded to that, and our thanks go to you. I became leader 18 months ago, so in that time we've had COVID, and I just want people not to forget that we had floods in February, and Alistair came dashing back from France, I think, to deal with that one. And then, of course, the first crisis was when this group ended up being elected, and that was, I don't know where that ranks in his order of difficulties, but it's been a very interesting 18 months, because my sort of coming in and not having any background with local authority and that kind of stuff, it was quite a challenge for Alistair. So Alistair, I just want to thank you. It's great the way you've been involved with COVID and put us in this position, and I think financially as well, you've done a great job for the council. I do wish you well. As I've said, I think before, I hope your plans for retirement go a little bit better than mine have done.
Well, thank you. You did take it upon yourself, though, Councillor Hitchener, but thank you for taking on the challenge. Councillor Stone, did you wish to say some words?
Thank you, Chairman. Alistair, thank you very much for the support and help you gave me when I became chairman unexpectedly for the second time in 2014. In rather difficult circumstances. I'm sure you can remember it, but your steady hand at the time was very much appreciated, and all the advice you gave me over the following 6 months. I endorse all the other comments that have been made this morning and want to wish you all the very best for the future. And let's hope we all get through the present COVID crisis. But thank you for all you've done for Herefordshire during that time and during the last few years. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Stone. And do we have any other people who wish to make any comments or give any tributes? We have Councillor Gandy. You're muted, Councillor Gandy.
As a relatively new councillor in Herefordshire, I've always found Alistair not only to be very empathetic, but somebody that has a really good sense of humour, and I think that's very important. I've served under 7 different chief executives, and I have to say that actually Alistair is up there at the top. And Herefordshire has been really, really lucky to have a chief executive like Alistair. I mean, I think many of us know that Alistair has had his own issues over the years, which we all recognise and sympathise with, and yet he still always put Herefordshire Council first. And I admire him for that. And I think we all do who were around at that time. So I wish him really a good retirement. You absolutely deserve it. Your family absolutely deserve to have more time with you. Perhaps they won't want it, but I'm sure they deserve it. And I wish you luck for the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Hardwick and then Councillor Chance.
Thank you, Chairman. I'll keep it brief. Most has actually been said, but what I will say is that the first day that I met Alistair was the day of the interviews and the meet and greet session at Brockington. And I can recall him reciting to me his adventures in a submarine. But what I would like to say is that I'd like to thank him for being at the helm of Herefordshire Council and keeping us afloat financially, and wish him all the best in his retirement and wish him a long, healthy and happy one. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hardwick. Councillor Chance.
Just very briefly, I'd like to say thank you to Alistair for his many years of service, and I know that he shares with me a delight in electric bikes, so I wish him all the best as he rides off into the sunset and journeys, Alistair.
Thank you. Do we have anybody else who wishes to speak? I think otherwise. Finally, Alistair, do you wish to make any chief executive announcements or say a few other words? The floor is yours.
Well, thank you very much indeed. I'm absolutely tremendously touched by the very kind comments that you have just made. I really appreciate it. And if I could just take a minute, I know that your agenda is very packed. The first thing I'd like to make sure that you are aware of our new acting Director of Public Health, Rebecca Howell-Jones. She was appointed about 2 weeks ago, and she will be in that role. I know that you will be fully supportive of her over the course of the months ahead. And I know we're in great hands with Rebecca in that place. She likes to be known as Becky. Just turning to comments, if I may, for a second. Thank you. It's been absolutely the privilege of my lifetime to work as Chief Executive of Herefordshire Council. I worked for many years in Unilever and BP, Masco, as a number of you will be aware. And after 22 years, thought, well, it would be interesting to see if I could take into the public sector some of that what I'd learned in the private sector. Nobody kind of was in a position, of course, to warn anybody at that stage what lay in store over the course of the next 20 years. It would probably be pretty boring if we knew ahead of us, wouldn't it? But it's been absolutely the most wonderful place to work in local government, and executive in 3 different locations. Herefordshire completely tops the lot. I've had the opportunity to also work for and support other councils in different ways. And everywhere I look, I think how lucky we are in Herefordshire to have the council that we've got. And I sometimes don't think that we realise that we have got a fantastic council. We've had to go through major changes. And I know that, well, Chairman, you and I had many a conversation about the need to move out of Brockington. You, I'm sure, remember, and I don't think you'll probably ever forgive me for moving that forward, but we did need to move out of a lot of premises that were very poor and into modern premises. And we also need to move away from paper onto digital. None of that was easy. But thank goodness we did. In the pandemic, for example, we were able within minutes to move onto digital platforms to be able to run our services, connect not only councillors, but all our management and staff. And I think, you know, that's paid very strong dividends for our residents in the real terms. You know, we have got some great officers. We have got great staff. It's been wonderful to work with colleagues that I've worked with. And I have to say, we have got great councillors. You know, honestly, comparing our council with councils around the country, we get on really well together. And it's when we get on well together that we work as a team that we can achieve amazing things in Herefordshire, and we have done. And I'm sure you'll do that again in the future. It's about emphasising and focusing on those areas that we have in common and really making them work, driving the county forward and not becoming in any way obsessed by ourselves as a council, keeping our focus on our county. And I think, you know, our standing is good, and our standing has developed well in the West Midlands, but also nationally. It's in the last couple of months that we've been held up as an exemplar by no fewer than 2 secretaries of state in public meetings, which is very good to hear. And it's all been about teamwork. We can achieve wonders when we work together as a team. It's a big world, and Herefordshire needs to pull together all its best efforts and all its best people focused on the outside world, not only on Herefordshire itself, in order to be able to stake our place in the future and to keep moving forward. And I'm confident that we will do that in Herefordshire with the tremendous councillors we've got and tremendous leadership team and staff that we've got. And just finally, I will do absolutely everything in the future to help and support Herefordshire and Herefordshire Council in any way that I possibly can. It's a brilliant county, it's a fantastic council, and I wish all of you the very, very best of success in the future. And thank you again for the opportunity to be your Chief Executive for these last 8 years. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Alistair. Our Chief Executive, shortly to retire. And again, we've had lots of tributes to you, very well deserved, and have a great time. Bon voyage into the future. If we're allowed to use French, I hope. Enjoy your time. And now we come to item number 5, questions from members of the public. There have been 2 questions submitted under this item. The questions and responses have been published as a supplement. Members of the public who have submitted a question have been offered the opportunity to ask a supplementary question by email, an audio or a video file, or as a virtual participant. A supplementary question must relate to the original question raised and must not take the form of a statement. Supplementary questions are limited to 1 minute in length. If the question is likely to exceed 1 minute, or it takes the form of a statement, the virtual participant's microphone will be placed on mute, and it will be requested that the question is put immediately. And we have had one supplementary question from Mr. Pincham. And that is, on the basis of the Cabinet member's response, can you confirm whether the development appraisal documents produced by Engie and commissioned by Herefordshire Council for Blackfriars Street at a cost of £120,000 have therefore been submitted to the Independent Towns Funds Board, Stronger Hereford Board, for due consideration ahead of the board's submission to MHCLG in January 2021? If the Blackfriars Street project will remain in the Council's capital programme regardless, taking into account MHCLG is not due to make a decision on round 2 Stronger Town bids before the Council is due to approve its next budget in 2021, and explain why this development is listed as abandoned on the Herefordshire Council website, despite your statement that no decision has yet been made. Now, I think it's Councillor Chowns.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Pincham, for your question. The Towns Fund submission was made by the football club itself. So it was up to them to decide what documents to submit. As to the full detailed questions, I will get you a written response.
Thank you very much indeed. Mr. Mackay has not submitted a supplementary question, so we will go on to the next item then. This is agenda item 6, questions from members of the council, and there have been no questions submitted by members of the council. That must be a record, I think. And then we come to item 7, licensing policy 2020-2025. To review and approve the draft licensing policy 2020-2025. The Cabinet Member Housing, Regulatory Services and Community Safety will move and introduce the report. You have 5 minutes for that. Councillor Tyler?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I'd just like to bring to members' attention at the present report, there are a number of errors in the numbering which have been picked up, and subsequent to the decision today will be amended in the report. So I'd like to present the report today to review and approve licensing policy 2020-2025 to be applied by the Council when exercising its functions under the Licensing Act 2003. Section 5 of the Licensing Act 2003 requires each licensing authority to publish a policy. The licensing authority is defined as the district council for the area. This is known as Herefordshire Council. It is a requirement that policy should be reviewed at least every 5 years or sooner if required. The recommendation can't be taken by Cabinet as it is not a function that can be delegated. This is why the report is before the Council today. The policy has undergone extensive consultation as required by legislation. It has been reviewed, refreshed to take account of new guidance issued by Home Office under Section 182 of the Act. The purpose of this statement is to set out the policies and procedures the Council will apply in relation to its functions under the Act, most particularly regarding applications for new licences, applications to vary existing licences, applications to review licences and temporary event notices. The Licensing Act 2003 controls the supply of alcohol, regulates entertainment and the supply of late night refreshment. It doesn't just cover the business, but also community premises and events as well. It sets out the expectations of the licensing authority and assists the licensing committee in their decision making. Everything Herefordshire Council does is underpinned by the requirement to promote 4 licensing objectives. These 4 fundamental objectives are the prevention of crime and disorder, public safety, the prevention of public nuisance, and the protection of children from harm. The 2015 policy itself remains largely unchanged. However, the biggest change is the removal of the cumulative impact policy, a special policy which was used to cover the Commercial Road, Union Street and Blue School Street areas of Hereford. As a direct result of the pandemic, the nighttime economy has suffered in these areas, and it has been difficult to justify its need to remain within the policy. I therefore ask members to recommend today, having regard to points 1 and 2, that the draft licensing policy appended to the report is approved, and that authority be delegated to the Assistant Director, Regulatory Environment and Waste to make any minor amendments to the statement of licensing policy, as and when required to be updated by legislation and guidance issued by government. Thank you, Chairman, and I welcome any questions.
Do you have a seconder?
Yes, I do.
Councillor
Selden.
Councillor Selden. Councillor Selden, do you wish to speak now or at the end of the debate?
At the end of the debate, if I may, Chairman.
Indeed you may. Thank you. Now, can we have members indicate if they intend to speak? There's a surge of no response so far. Any members wish to make any comments?
Councillor Davis, Chairman.
Councillor Davis, will
Yeah,
you speak, please?
I do. I did put my blue hand up. I think that's.
It's just come up. It's just come. There's been a slight electronic delay. I think you're there.
Must be the distance it's got to go from my house. Okay, so I'm very happy to see the updated Licensing Act 2003 policy come before full council. I'm especially grateful to Councillor Tyler and the officers for the removal on the crime and disorder zone in Hereford City. For those of you that do not know what the CDZ is, which it's commonly referred to, involves, it creates an automatic presumption of rebuttal on all premises licence applications within a designated area of Hereford city centre. As you can imagine, this creates an uphill struggle for many premises with the need to prove why they would not impact on the area, and sometimes requiring heavy-handed and expensive licensing conditions in order for them to get the licence. Quite frankly, those looking to open up a licensed premises have looked unfavourably upon coming to Hereford City when other counties would not have such a CDZ. I worked as a licensing officer in central London, and they had less draconian measures than this, and with significantly more crime and disorder. The reason for this was that London authorities embraced the tourism and income generated from a nighttime economy. They also relied on the fact that should there be any issues with a licensed premises, that the Act allowed individuals, the licensing authority or the police to call the licence in for a review. This provision to call in for a review still exists within the Licensing Act legislation, and it is reflected in this policy. For me, the removal of the CDZ reflects a change in culture and a will of Herefordshire Council to support our licensed trade when they need it the absolute most. It says that Herefordshire respects the positive impact the licensing trade brings to our county, and that you are part of our plans to rebuild the county and the economy. Thank you all.
Thank you, Councillor Davies. Councillor Milne.
Yes, thank you, Chair. This is an admirably thorough document. I was impressed by a policy document which will drill down to the detail of having policies on such things as hotel minibars. I wonder if I might just make a comment about a number of other ones. The policy on vessels and ships, presumably there is only one navigation in Herefordshire, and that is the River Wye. And my understanding is that Herefordshire Council is not the licensing authority for the Wye, the Environment Agency is, but perhaps that's an officer thing to comment on. There is one other comment, if I might make, about on pages 50 and 54, that's points 19.28 and 19.44, where references are made to the potential imposition of a condition for premises which are hosting events where there may be rowdy behaviour, and the condition is around asking for the use of glass, either bottles or vessels, not to be used, and that polypropylene vessels are used instead. And it may seem a rather small thing, but one's experience of the use of single-use plastic in such occasions where we're trying to resist or reduce the use of single-use plastics. Is there a way we could just add a word saying something like that the reusable polypropylene or non-single-use polypropylene might be introduced there if we are asking for a condition for the use of single-use plastics? Then that should not be. I mean, if we're asking for a condition for non-breakable materials, then those materials should not be single-use. Does that make some sense? That's just my concern on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Milne. I imagine it's an issue of safety as well, and glass can be very dangerous indeed if it's being used as an offensive weapon, or even just in its broken state. But yes, I'm sure we'll have some thinking about that. Councillor James.
Thank you, Chairman. Can I say I support this revised licensing policy document? It follows on from the previous document, and I think improves on it. And I would like to compliment the licensing staff for, in many cases, and in my particular area, a positive approach to the licensed trade within the community. There are, which I won't outline today, but there seems to be a more proactive and supportive ethos that seems to exist at a time when the licensed trade are in dire difficulty, many of the licensed trade are in dire difficulties, and many businesses will possibly fail to come back after COVID. It's fortunate that we have an ethos within the authority of support of the licensed trade rather than antagonizing them. So I wholeheartedly support the amended motion.
Thank you, Councillor. I'm sure you're absolutely right. We do need to give these our licensed trades huge support. They've had a terrible time. Councillor Matthews.
Yeah, just very briefly, Chairman, I'd like to thank everyone for the hard work and the comprehensive report being put before us today. We should be very proud in Hereford. We've been congratulated and acknowledged by government, central government, on a number of occasions for the very high standard licensing section that we've run, and we've been held up as an example on several occasions as well. So we should be proud of it. We've got one department there, and all officers and cabinet members, etc., should be congratulated on all that hard work. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Matthews. Do we have anyone else who wishes to make a statement? Or I can see no other people coming forward. In which case, I will come to Councillor Selden, the seconder of the motion.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. As the standing chairman of the licensing committee, I automatically welcome this, of course, because there's a lot of work gone into it, and I offer my congratulations to Mr. Spriggs on the licensing team who've actually taken the time to get this into place. I do get slightly irritated, Chairman, by members who stand up in this meeting and say they haven't had the opportunity to feed into it. This has been out for consultation for at least 3 weeks before this meeting, and they have had ample chance to feed into it. And I can only assume that they knew that they were going to be excluded through Schedule 1 interests, and therefore I do not take that they have not had the opportunity to feed in. I think they have. So thank you, Chairman. I recommend this, and that I move it goes to the vote.
Thank you very much, Councillor Selden. I think I know you've all put in a huge amount of work, and we all appreciate it very much. Moving to the vote. Please can Democratic Services display the proposed motion, and I'll read it out as well, and also confirm the voting number. The report recommendations are that 1, the draft licensing policy appended to the report be approved, and 2, that authority be delegated to the Assistant Director, Regulatory, Environment and Waste to make any minor amendments to the statement of licensing policy as and when required to be updated by legislation and guidance issued by government. So, the voting options: for, against, and abstain will be added, have been added to the electronic voting system. The options are now on screen. If you are unable to see the voting options, please access the poll icon at the bottom of your screen. And please can members vote for, against, or abstain. Please cast your vote and ensure you press submit after selecting the option for which you are voting.
Chairman, I can confirm there's 47 members eligible to vote, and they may all vote now.
Right, thank you very much. Please vote.
Chairman, for some reason my poll will not work. It won't allow me to submit.
No, mine won't either. I'm having problem. It's blanked out. And I can't
could it mean?
Chairman,
I am relaunched.
Chairman, can I suggest that the poll's relaunched, please?
Yes. Can we relaunch the poll, please? Please cast your vote for, against, or abstain. Have you any better luck with that?
Mine's gone.
Chairman, we're just outstanding the one vote.
All right. If it's only one vote, can the monitoring officer declare the results? And if it's an overwhelming vote one way or the other, I think we'd have to go by the majority verdict.
I can confirm the votes. We have 44 votes for, 2 abstentions, and therefore the licensing policy is approved.
Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
So well done, licensing team.
Well done.
All done. Ready for the next 5 years.
Yeah.
Subject to small amendments, no doubt, on the way. Item 8, a leader's report. To receive a report from the leader on the activities of the executive, the cabinet, since the meeting of council on the 9th of October 2020. Members are reminded that they may ask questions upon this report, but there will be no debate on matters contained in it. Questions should be concise and to the point, and please try to avoid repeating points already covered. I invite the leader to present the report and to respond to any questions arising. Leader, yours is the floor.
Thank you, members. This report has been circulated with the papers. The last few months have been dominated, of course, by COVID, and at the same time, we've been trying to continue with longer-term plans. I was going to say sort of business as usual, but there isn't such a thing as business as usual at the moment. The officers have been stretched over the last 6 months, a lot of flexibility shown by them, which we're enormously grateful for. We're looking at other projects to go forward. We've now got our annual plan in place, so a clear path forward. But it is a challenge for officers to spend time on all these things, which we're trying to do at the same time as dealing with the current crisis of COVID. The report is at the moment divided into sort of 2 parts. The first bit deals with a number of cross portfolio issues. It's quite difficult to fit everything neatly into one little parcel or silo. In fact, we've been trying to move away from that, I think, for a number of years as a council. So the first part is more general, and then it goes into specific items measured against the county plan. I hope that's an acceptable format to the council. I await the questions.
Thank you, Leader. I have so far Councillor Gandy and then Councillor Roan. Councillor Gandy, please.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Leader, for the report. Item 9.13, signs of safety, is really exciting for children and families, working with families and young people who are facing challenging times. And I was delighted to hear at a recent presentation how enthusiastic our social workers are about this new way of working. Can you confirm that there will be a presentation to all members in the coming months, and that you would urge all members to attend that presentation? My second point is regarding 9.14. A lot has been learnt by members and officers during the peer-on-peer abuse process, and I'm sure that a lot more will be learnt in the future. I really do hope that lessons learnt are embedded in all that we do as an authority, and that scrutiny committees in the future can feel assured that they have access to all the information they need in order to make constructive recommendations which will genuinely make a difference. And I wish to place on record my thanks to members of the public for their tenacity in this matter, which I believe demonstrated most clearly how important it is that the public engages with scrutiny and highlights issues which they believe scrutiny should be looking at. Would the leader agree that this particular subject highlighted just how important their contribution was, and why it is so important that council should always listen to members of the public?
Thank you, Councillor Gandy. Leader.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Councillor Gandy, for that. First of all, the presentation about signs of safety. There certainly has been a presentation made, I think, probably to Cabinet, and I thought that was very interesting. There was an opportunity for interactive work and to understand better what signs of safety means. And I do agree with you that we should have a presentation for all Cabinet members, council members rather, or ward members. I think it would be very good and helpful and participatory. But I'll just refer in a moment to Councillor Norman because it's under her portfolio, and she will be the one who'd have to be organising that. Lessons learned, yes, it's been quite a long road to this, and I do, like you, commend the people who have been involved in pushing this forward. And the information you've made at this point a number of times, Councillor Gandy, and I commend you for that, ensuring that the Scrutiny Committee has all information which it needs to evaluate these issues, which are such a concern. Peer-on-peer sexual abuse is a significant issue. It's often hidden, I think. We're probably bringing it out much more. And it's something which affects people's lives for the whole of their lives. And we must bear that in mind as we try to educate children, teachers, everyone about this, trying to reduce the prevalence of it in our society and enabling families and the children to recover. But I'll just ask Councillor Norman if she might want to comment as well on that. But I do thank you for your question.
Thank you, Councillor Norman.
Yes, thank you, Leader, and thank you, Councillor Gandy. And I agree absolutely with both of you on peer abuse, very disturbing business, which I think we are all keen to ensure that we are addressing in the best possible way. And we do thank families who have been involved in this process. And it is important, not just now, that in the future, we do work with people who have been affected by this and of course by other problems and difficulties. And just to add a couple of things, one is that we are continuing to work to improve good practice, guidance, advice, working not only with people who have had experience of this, but also with, for example, the University of Bedfordshire, which is an acknowledged expert leader in this field. And they're helping us to develop our own best possible guidance, which we hope will be ready, further guidance, I should say, we hope will be ready very early in the new year. And just to also add on the signs of safety that's been mentioned, this new practice for social work, it's good to hear the promising and encouraging comments on this practice from people who've already heard about it. And we are hoping in the new year to organise a briefing for all members. So that will be coming along fairly soon. And to add, we would like this to be a regular process so that we do keep you updated, not just on this particular process, but other developments within Children and Families Directorate, which we think will be of interest to everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Norman.
I think, perhaps, Chairman, if I could just add, one of the comments that the Chief Executive mentioned was we're stronger when we work together. And I think certainly on issues like children, child protection, and adults, it's an area where we can all work together on that. We have differences in other areas, quite clearly, but in things like children, then working together is a very much more powerful way of working. So the way Scrutiny can look at these issues. But we do rely upon members of the public to come out with these issues. So we do ask for that. And those who are acquainted with this particular report will know that there's an opportunity for anybody who has been affected by peer-on-peer abuse to come forward and to talk about it. And we are open as a council to that. But yes, working together in issues like this is so important. And when we do run this seminar, I hope that all ward members are able to be involved in it and to experience this, because it's a fascinating subject.
Thank you, Leader. Yes, an apposite comment, I think. And if necessary, we might have to have 2 meetings to make sure that everyone has a chance to attend or hear. Councillor Rowan.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Leader. My question really is about Hereford Towns funds. As colleagues, especially those of the City South may know, I chair the South Development Trust, and in that capacity, as well as my elected role, I'm always on the lookout, as well as the board are as well, to better the area and so the lives of the people that live in Newton Farm, on Hunderton, Redhill, Belmont, Putson, Hinton, Lower Bullingham. Now, the town's fund, some £25 million in total, launched in September 2019, but was not engaged by this administration until September the 20th in any real efforts. It's full of bids to better the South Wye area in particular and the city as a whole. Now, all bids had to be worked on in a frenzy to meet the soft deadline of November the 16th. Some felt it was too short notice, so capitulated. Others pooled resources, took time off work and missed weekends off to complete the deadline date of November the 16th. Bids by social clubs, groups and even social entrepreneurs were then completely undermined by this authority, launching bids totaling some £20 million on schemes which could be described as either not suitable or even completely missing the point. And all of these were submitted 2 days late on November the 18th, 2 days after the deadline date. I give you, it was a soft deadline date. Council schemes for Maylord Orchards Shopping Centre, as well as Rotherwas and Cycleways. All these schemes prepared by experienced council officers against and up against the tenacity and goodwill of what must only be described as amateurs to a certain degree. Would the leader agree that council projects should be paid for by spending and borrowing and leave these once-in-a-lifetime windfalls to clubs, groups, associations, and aforementioned social entrepreneurs for whom it was designed? This late bid and wanting 80% of the total pot available smacks of greed, or is it desperation? Maybe this is just a case of, how did Councillor Jenny Hewitt put it earlier in the week? Gimme, gimme the money. Could you ensure, Leader, that the community bids are given priority over the local authority ones? The people in my constituency are far more important than the Maylords Arts Centre or art installations on a cycle route somewhere. It's interesting to note that the Maylords bid itself on its own is over double at £4.5 million than the two projects that I have looked at in the past 3 months. Projects, that is, that create jobs, help well-being, teach life skills and have very little ongoing cost. And that's the important bit here. As Cabinet Member for the Environment, Economy and Skills, Councillor Chowns must have been involved in putting the local authority bids forward, but if she wasn't, I'll stand to be corrected. So is she best placed to sit and judge to whom the funds will go? Thank you very much, Leader.
Thank you. Leader?
Yes. It's a strange situation because the Stronger Towns Board is not a council body and it's not been appointed by the council. It has one representative from the council on it. I think there are 15 in total. It includes Jessie Norman, people from Hereford Bid. So ultimately, any decision made for any of these projects is actually to be made by the Stronger Towns, and the council does not control that. It has one vote out of 15. So that I think the way the government wants for this to work is that it is actually projects which come up bottom up from groups such as those which you've mentioned, Councillor Rowan. So that is the intention. It's interesting because the council was late in providing its projects, partly I think because I wasn't quite sure whether the council should really be putting projects forward. But then the council started being criticised for not putting projects forward. So the council needs to make sure they did put projects forward. So it was a little bit of a strange position for the council being criticised for not putting them in, and then it's now being criticised for putting them in. But the thing is, we need to work together on this. This is about what is best for the town, the city and the town the county has the opportunity of putting forward these projects to the Towns Board for them to find out which ones are appropriate. And it may be that mixed in with the council's ideas. Other ones come up with communities. I do echo your concern a little bit about projects which should emphasise the South Wye. We should be making sure it's not north of the Wye centric. But at the end of the day, we have to work with what we've got and present things to this town's board, who will then make decisions. Yes, the timescale was tight, and I think, as with other projects, we as the administration need to understand why things do take longer than we expected. It is a frustration. Now is not the time to analyse that. I think we'll have a look at that at a later stage to see how we can do things better in the future. One of the great things I think about this project, and something I'm very pleased about, is the number of projects that have come forward. It's something like over 50 different projects, valued at, I don't know, something like £75 million. So we've got 25 million, we need another 15 million to satisfy these other things. The community has just been most fantastically engaged. They come up with all these ideas, and I'm hoping that those who are disappointed, we've got a sort of folder with all these ideas that people want to put forward, which are, all of them are tremendously beneficial to the town, so to the city and to the county. So I'm hoping that once this exercise is over, the particular projects are identified, we can go back to all those others and find some way of putting those forward. I will give the opportunity to Councillor Chowns if she would like to comment, as she's been named, and also maybe Councillor Davis might want to say a comment as well.
Councillor Chowns, you want to speak now?
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Leader, and thank you, Councillor Rowan, for your question. And I acknowledge the strength of feeling that your comments kind of represented, but I really welcome the opportunity to perhaps correct a few misconceptions, which I think are a bit unfortunate, because the tone of those comments seemed to be kind of seeing things in a sort of oppositional sort of way. And actually, I think that the Towns Fund is very much about getting all the partners together around the table to work out what we can do together that's best for the city and the county as a whole. And that's really how I see the project. It's how I've fulfilled my role as the one council representative on this 15-person body that is not a council-led body. You know, I really see the council's role as facilitating this. And so just to kind of clarify, the point about the council's projects, as the Leader said, we were, there was an expectation that we would also submit some projects into the first round. And I think we put in less than 20 million out of 75 to 80 million pounds worth of projects that were put forward. And those projects have come from, there was about 40 projects that come from all parts of the community, and that diversity enthusiasm is really fantastic. And actually, I think that is something that to some extent we can, count as a success, because as a council we did push very hard for really wide public consultation on this. That was something I was very, very keen to see, that this is something that's provided as an opportunity for everybody. And indeed, I've been reporting to all of you colleagues in my monthly contributions to the Leaders newsletter on this on a monthly basis every, since June at least, I think. So there was that sort of soft deadline for ideas to come forward, and the idea was always that then projects in similar areas, organisations with similar concerns would be encouraged to kind of work together to see if there was synergy and to come up with joint proposals. And that is very much what is happening now. That's the stage that we're in now. And I think that process is really positive and constructive. Now, obviously, a 25 million cut-off, we're not going to be able to, as a board, get all of the projects within that. But one of the great things is that because these ideas have come forward and been worked up, it means that there's more of a chance of them being considered when future funding opportunities come along, which we very much hope that they will. And so I really want to assure colleagues that as the council's representative, I'm not banging the drum for any particular project. I'm really concerned to see an inclusive process and cooperative process. And I see the council's role here as using our assets and our capacity to support things that people want to do. So some of those projects we might take a bit more of a leading role on if it's public realm, for example, or relating to a building that's in our ownership. Other ones we might actually be looking at doing asset transfers to support community projects, and those things are in the mix. So I really hope that colleagues can kind of feel enthusiastic about this, take it in the spirit in which I think we're all trying to work of cooperation and joint working together, and really see, like as I do, the council's role as being to support the process as a whole and contribute where we can for the greater public good. Just finally, on the point about the time frames of the process, I share Councillor Rowan's slight frustration that there was some delay in kicking this work off to the level of engagement that we've really needed, and that is something that we will review afterwards. So I do acknowledge that, but now we've got all cylinders firing and fantastic engagement from so many sections of the community.
Thank you, Councillor Chance. Councillor Toynbee next.
Sorry, Chair, can I come back?
I'm going to come back to you in a little bit, unless you want to do it absolutely now.
Yeah, very quickly. It's just one question.
Right. Off you go.
The leader just said there are so many excellent projects totaling £75 million when there's a £25 million fund. Why doesn't the local authority just withdraw all theirs and allow those fantastic projects that have been brought forward by the groups and associations I mentioned to look at better things? The Lord Orchards doesn't need another £4.5 million thrown at it. Pieces of architecture and sculpture on cycle paths. We're talking about a market garden south of the city. We're talking about huge opportunities in the city centre for a piece of land that's only used for about 40 hours a year to play games on. It could be fantastic. But no, it's the same old, same old. I would ask you now, Leader, can you withdraw all the local authority projects? Will still be over by some £25 million and give the little man and the little woman an opportunity of doing what they think is best for where they live.
Leader, would you like to come back on that? Councillor Chance, I'll give you an opportunity later.
Well, the answer, I think, is no, we're not prepared to withdraw them. Councillor Chance?
Can I add to that? So
be brief, please.
Councillor Rowan's talking about a couple of specific projects, but there may be other community groups that don't happen to have an advocate on the council able to articulate their virtues in this forum. So I think we need to be careful about talking about particular projects. The shortlisting process is still ongoing and really careful attention is being given to that. And I would just ask Councillor Rowan to kind of read what seems to be a starting assumption that the projects the council's putting forward are somehow not going to be as useful for the community. The council exists to work for the public benefit. The proposals that we've put forward are things that are around skills development, which is something that all stakeholders are agreeing needs to be done. They're around strengthening the visitor economy and attracting more visitors into the city. Again, something that's got really widespread support. So I don't kind of get this oppositional either or. What the council's trying to do with our engagement is very much about supporting stuff that is good for everybody. We shouldn't see this as a zero-sum competition. We should see it as an opportunity for cooperation and creative collaboration.
Thank you, Councillor. Now, Councillor Toynbee.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I've got a brief question about budget setting, going back to the leader's report. So a couple of weeks ago, we had the spending review from the Chancellor, which we were on tenterhooks about, especially as the government had told us that it would do whatever it takes to support local councils during this very challenging year. It's been a year where local residents appreciate the services more than ever, the services that are a lifeline to many of them. Sadly, we saw no new public health money, no plan on social care. And once again, we're not receiving everything we need from central government. We as a council want to have a long-term approach, but central government thinks short-term. We need long-term certainty, but they give us short-term funding in little dribs and drabs, which makes it extremely difficult to plan. So my questions are, firstly, have we had any more news since the spending review? Have we had any updates on the government's promise to fulfill that it's going to fulfill its promise to reimburse us for all the expenses that we've incurred dealing with COVID? And secondly, I know how difficult it is to encourage people to participate in consultations in budgets. I'm just wondering how our consultation is going with local people and businesses, and if there's anything more we can all do to engage our residents and encourage them to participate.
Thank you, Councillor Toynbee. Leader.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Toynbee. The government have provided dribs and drabs for the current year. I think they're getting closer to what they said they were going to do to help us this current year. It's next year which is the big problem, and we're not going to know specifically what the result is going to be until about the 17th of December, just before Christmas, when the government will actually finally let us know how much money they're providing. So we're having to plan for the worst and plan for the worst and hope for the best. On the consultation, I've been involved in one of those, only one of those meetings, and it's an interesting reflection. The town's fund has been, the engagement there has been fantastic. Lots of people involved in that, and we'd like to mirror that in these other consultations. I don't know whether anybody else is able to give a better idea of how the consultation has been going, whether Mr. Lovegrove, the Section 151 officer, is able to comment, whether I can ask him to do so. Officer, can I involve?
Yes, you may. Mr. Lovegrove, are you there?
Chairman, yes, I am here, yes.
Good.
In terms of the consultation process, we're in the phase of consulting with the parish council community as we speak, and I think there's about 18 or 19 virtual meetings been set up. About half of those have already happened. We've been having good attendance and good engagement from the parish councils and their representatives. As the leader said, we are planning for the worst, hoping for the best. And the parish councils, I think, have embraced that spirit and have given some very good feedback and comments, which will be reported back to Cabinet. The online consultation for businesses and the public and the third sector goes live from 18th of December and goes through till I believe the 8th of January, and that's for everybody in the county to put forward their comments. We will then report the feedback from those processes to Cabinet in due course. As the leader said, the settlement announcement, we've been told, will be before Christmas. The working assumption is the 17th of December, but we do know history tells us that sometimes government takes a little bit longer. It may actually roll into the following week, but we'll keep everybody posted on that.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lovegrove.
Am I able to ask Councillor Harvey, who's been running a lot of this, whether she'd like to comment?
Briefly, please. Just thinking of time, we have other ones who want to come in to speak as well.
Yeah, I think she should be able to speak for as long as the questioner and other people have.
Yes, I'm just saying they have all been reasonably concise.
Well, I shan't take up too much of your time, Chairman. I think the most useful thing that that I could ask for assistance from all members of this council with is encouraging local businesses in your wards to engage with the business consultation that's taking place next week. I believe you've all received emails with the details, but if you have local businesses or if there are traders associations or chambers of commerce in your market town, please do encourage them to engage with the process next week. Obviously, it's difficult when you're dealing with sole traders, but at least to get some representation there, so that the views of business can be included. It's really important to us, and we really want to hear what the views of business are, particularly seeing as things have been so tough.
Thank you, Councillor Harvey. I'm sure that's a very admirable request for everyone to help as much as we can. Good. We have now Councillor Hay.
Thank you, Chair. I've got a couple of points really to make. I wanted to mention to the leader, obviously, thank you for such a comprehensive report. I wanted to just briefly mention the equality policy. It's great to see, good to see that obviously we've got some updated information on work that's been done there. But I was wanting some assurance really that this will remain a live document, because I think there's still quite a lot of work to be done in this area. Particularly, I'm thinking of maybe how we can make our council services more accessible, and certainly making sure that we can have tailored support for protected groups. And I'm thinking of examples of children with English as an additional language in the city, as those groups are increasing, and also those with special educational needs. So as I say, positive, but obviously how we can obviously work on that. And in addition, just wanted to make a comment really more and say, does the leader agree with me that Herefordshire Council should be congratulated on our reaction to providing free school meals throughout the city, when obviously the government withdrew their funding for this service? I mean, I'm aware of the outreach service that's been going on at the Hillside Centre, providing nutritious meals 4 days a week for families in need during the school holidays. And I think this is such an important service for Herefordshire families, and has provided such a vital lifeline for them during the COVID crisis. And obviously it's great to see, and hopefully it's something that we will continue to do in the future.
Thank you, Councillor Hay. Leader.
Yes, so if I deal with the second part of your question first. Yes, the response of the community groups and everyone, the school meals issue at half term was fantastic, and we do thank them all for their response. Christmas is another issue, and here the government are actually supporting this, and vouchers for £75 are going out to schools for them to administer and then give to children who are entitled to free school meals. And that communication is going out this week. And if anybody's listening to this broadcast, they might be, and they're possibly entitled to this, they should contact the council if there's a problem. But hopefully they can actually liaise through their own individual schools who will help out with that. So this is one way, yes, the government have stepped up to the plate eventually. So that's a good result for that. The equality policy, yes, I guess the tendency might be sometimes to just put it in a drawer and not get it out, and we mustn't fall into that trap. And I can assure you there's a cabinet member who is going to fight for this very, very strongly. And I'd ask Councillor Davis just to comment, if she would, please.
Councillor Davis, a brief comment.
She's very happy to, but it's Councillor Harvey's, and her eyebrow raise gave that away.
Right.
Oh, sorry. Councillor Harvey, I'm sorry about that. Yes.
I've had my my moment in the sun with the chairman. I'll leave it with your comments, leader.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome to comment again if you need to, Councillor Harvey. Then we come down to Councillor Matthews.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. I'd like, Chairman, Leader, 9.9, officers from environmental health and trading standards, including licenses, continue to undertake joint patrols with police to ensure public protection and compliance with the new Tier 2 COVID restrictions and guidance. In achieving this, our officers are taking a proportionate yet firm approach in advising businesses on compliance, then revisiting after advice has been given. So many council officers make sure that they remain and complying with the rules. And there's the issue of fixed penalties in court cases. Can you tell me, Leader, how many fixed penalty tickets have been issued, and if there's been any court cases in breach of the guidance? Thank you.
Well, that's a bit of a challenging question, Councillor Matthews. I don't have that information. What I had heard was that you know, in a league table basis, we're towards the top of enforcement. But I think I'm either going to have to ask for someone to come up with a written reply to that, unless I think I'll just if you don't mind, I'll provide a written reply. Thank you.
I think a written reply would be appropriate. Thank you, Leader.
I just come in there, Chairman. Yeah, can we offer a written reply to that under the Environmental Health Team for the instigation of fixed penalty notices? Can we come back on that, please?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Be useful.
Chairman, could I also ask the Chairman of Children's Services, beg pardon, the Cabinet Member for Children's Services, the complaints of pupils on Aylstone Hill coming down through your breast, etc. And I know Councillor Tyler and other members are on the case. Could she tell us how often does she contact schools and colleges to remind them of their responsibilities of how their pupils and students behave on leaving and coming to college? Could she tell us whether that's a regular process, and is she happy with how they're carrying out that guidance?
Councillor Tyler?
Sorry, I didn't get that last part of the question, Councillor Matthews. Could you repeat that?
Yeah, it was included actually for Councillor Norman, Children's Services Cabinet Member. It was about the pupils leaving our schools and students to colleges, recent complaints which Councillor Tyler has been looking at, but to Councillor Norman, can she tell us, have her department been in touch with the school, given them guidance on this issue to make sure that students and pupils behave responsibly? And if so, how often is she happy that they're abiding by the guidance that's been given?
Councillor Tyler?
Yes, thank you. I can sort of reply on part of that question. We are looking at increasing our signs around the city, around the colleges and schools, to obviously observe the safety messages for hands, face and space. We are looking to put more along Aylstone Hill, South Bank Road and Fens Lane. But with regards to how schools are dealing with that matter, I believe schools are participating very well for students to be safe. But if Councillor Norman can answer that question as to know what policies and procedures they put in place.
Councillor Norman, do you want to add a brief comment on that?
Just a brief one. Thank you, Chair. Yes, absolutely. I think everyone is doing what they can on this. I certainly can't guarantee that all students are responding, unfortunately. I wish I could, but the advice is going out. I understand that Chris Baird and Kerry Morgan have been in touch with principals, reminding them of their responsibility to remind their students that you know, they need to take care outside college on the way down the hill, for example, and have some consideration for other people. So that is something I've asked for. I replied to the particular couple who raised the issue, and I hope they appreciate that we're doing all we can. Just a quick word to add to that is one of the other problems we have is that whereas schools take every effort within their classrooms to advise the children and young people they work with, one of the difficulties we often have is when children are released, they come out having followed sensible practices during the day, to find that very often parents are not being as sensible as everyone else, and that crowding around gates and a lack of care is one of the issues we'd really like to see you know, improved. And so we are trying to add the advice that goes out to parents and carers as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Norman. I have Councillor Hewitt next, and then Councillor Davis James Shaw. Councillor Hewitt?
Thank you very much, Chair. And I'd like to take this opportunity to just address what may be a misapprehension in the public's mind. When we were quoting the Councillor Hewitt gimme gimme, that quote was Councillor Hewitt quoting somebody else. So that isn't actually me saying gimme gimme, just out there are wondering. I'd like to go back to a previous issue, and that's about safeguarding and responsibility as a local authority. We have statutory responsibility for safeguarding for children in the county in the event of peer-on-peer sexual abuse and other matters, of course. It's 4 years since the original issue around this critical thing came to light, and we have had a lot said in this meeting about us relying on the public to bring this to our attention. But 4 years on, we have started to address the issue. However, I'm very aware that neglect is often a lot more damaging and a lot more painful than the original abuse. And so what I'd like to ask the leader is that with the steps that we've taken, and obviously it was something that we inherited as an administration, not something which we are solely responsible for, that we are now able to act in a much more compassionate and timely manner to something which is actually a serious safeguarding alert. So I'd like a response from the leader, please.
Leader, thank you, Councillor Hewitt.
Yes, I've been very impressed by the officer's response recently, and the report which has been prepared and the list of recommendations, and we will be following up on those recommendations to make sure that they are taken on board. I think we have learned, and as I say, we will be following up on all these things. Of course, there's no absolute guarantee, and there's a sort of cultural thing, I think, of just gradually changing people's attitude, changing people's minds, and making it it becomes in the lifeblood eventually, and it just takes a bit of time to do that. And things like the Signs of Safety program, I think, draw on all that, just putting a different kind of blood through the stream of the people in that particular area of the council. So I'm looking forward to us being much more responsive in future.
Thank you, Leader. I have Councillor Davis next, followed by Councillor James.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, just a couple of points followed by a question. So I just want to come back to the Stronger Towns incentive. And like Councillor Rowan, I am a proud South YEan. I've made that up, I think. And just to remind him, Saxon Gate is in there. You didn't mention us, and we're very important. So I just wanted to say those people that have been working night and day include me. So all of the work that's been going on individual projects, I've been dealing with the community. So Councillor Towns mentioned before about the opening up of community assets and transferring of it to enable other projects to go ahead. I've been working on it for months. So I think it's a little bit disingenuous to say that things were put in at the last minute. They haven't. I've been working really hard on them. One of the projects that you referred to is regarding Maylord Orchards, and actually the bid itself is talking about the removal of the library from where it's currently based to Maylord Orchards, so that we can have a 21st century passive house building for the museum, in which we can have lots of amazing things that are currently in storage relating to Herefordshire out on display and going around all of our community. So that would include the market towns, it would include the city council, it would include, for example, Peter Church, their amazing art project that they've got in their community hall. We would be able to display them everywhere, and it's a sense of pride. And that bid has not come from the council, it came from the bringing together of community groups. So the Friends of the Museum have been part of that from the very beginning. So I've been working tirelessly with them to see whether or not it's a possibility, and lots of people have given up their time for free. So I just think we need to be really clear on what the projects that we're talking about are, and how the community are involved. I'm proud that we have an amazing cultural heritage within Herefordshire. But if you're saying that if I brought a bid to you that said I want £15 million for a new museum, that it would even go into the budget, it wouldn't. The only opportunity to get this through is to go through Towns Fund, and I think it will make a massive difference to the city.
Your question, Councillor Davis?
Yes, my other point first. I think I've got 3 minutes.
Very briefly, yes, you've got 3 minutes, that's all though.
I know, but you've interrupted it. So the bits that you've interrupted.
I will add 15 seconds to your time.
Thank you. So the other one is around the waste survey. It'd be really, I'm not even going to apologise for taking this moment to say that the waste survey is out at the moment, and it's really important that people do answer this. This is their one opportunity to look at which option we go down with our waste disposal, with our waste collection. So please do it. We've had an incredible response already. And the final one is that I won't be here next week. So would the leader agree with me that it's that we should all be celebrating our incredible staff that have worked tirelessly over this year under the most difficult circumstances, and wish them all a very, very Merry Christmas.
Yes, I would commend that. I think our staff have done a fantastic work. It's very strange, isn't it, when you go into Plough Lane and there aren't lots of people there. The people who seem to be there are a lot of social workers, and it's great actually to come across them, to be able to meet with them, and to see them around. And they're amongst those who've really found this very difficult, looking after children, looking after adults in these environments. So my hat goes off out to them. The reply to the last question, I didn't mean any sort of criticism for the social workers. They are an amazing group of people, and I commend them, as well as the licensing people getting out. I mean, the planning people, all the issues that they've had, and then we had avian flu coming along as well. It's just extraordinary. So I hope you have some opportunity of having some time off between Christmas, because I think we do, all councillors included, deserve a decent break.
Thank you, Leader. You have Councillor James now.
Thank you, Chairman. I have some sympathy with what Councillor Rowan said earlier, but I have to say, when the city town fund was announced, the government actually stated that they had to be put forward, and they had to have the support of the local MP. So there is a possibility that perhaps he can lobby his local MP, that they have to be okayed, as it were. Apparently, that's what the government said when they announced this particular fund, by the local MP. So there's an opportunity where he may be able to redress the unfortunate, perhaps, what he considers to be unfortunate package that have gone forward.
Leader? Okay, are you still speaking? Sorry, you've disappeared.
Who's disappeared?
So your voice has disappeared.
Has it?
It's back now.
Yeah, no, I finished. Sorry.
Finished. Sorry, I just not quite sure which it was.
Yeah.
Leader, do you want to have a quick comment?
Yes, I'm not entirely familiar with the MP having had that much influence in official terms. What I thought you were going to say was that at the end of the day, the council has to have input on all these plans, because they eventually become the accountable body. So if anything goes wrong, then it's the council that are there picking up the pieces. But he has been very engaged, talking to others who've been involved with these town funds. Our local MP, Jesse Norman, has been engaged in all these meetings at a time when he's trying to raise billions of pounds through the Treasury. He still finds the time to meet with us, and thank him for that. And he's giving gentle guidance in the background, I can assure you.
Thank you,
Chairman. The actual announcement of this particular fund, the government stated that it would be subject to the agreement of the local, as long as the local MP agreed with the individual projects.
Right. Councillor Chan, we'll come back to you in a moment. And is there some particular...
It's just a point of clarification.
Right, clarify.
Jesse Norman MP sits on the board, on the town board.
Yep, thank you.
Yeah, no.
Councillor Shaw, please. And then Councillor Stark and Ginman.
Thank you, Chair. I thank the leader for his report, and in particular, 2 points. One is in his highlighting the budget planning process now in consultation. There's a growing sort of concern in my community over the authorities' increased revenue spending commitments. I hope both that the Alistair will enjoy his retirement, well, a much deserved retirement, but that the departure of the chief executive doesn't herald a departure from the last 10 years of financial prudence by the authority. To that end, can I suggest that the leader considers that the MTFS, medium-term financial strategy, is developed for a 5-year period rather than the current 3. I think in line with some other more forward-thinking authorities. This would enable the income and spend of the council to be considered over a longer time frame and reduces the risk of any future financial embarrassment. Something for him to consider, I hope. And the other comment I have is in relation to the review of the waste management services. I noted that there are only 2 options for voting on, which I thought was a little bit of a regret. The current system certainly works very well out in the countryside, and I did wonder really whether we didn't have the option to make no changes in certain parts of the county, even if food waste collection was sort of thrust upon us in the towns and cities. So just a couple of comments. There might be a reply, but I just wanted to make those comments. Thank you.
Leader, do you have a comment?
Yes, thank you, Councillor Shaw. Yeah, the first question is about the MTFS and whether it should be 5 or 3 years, but we'll probably have a look at that. I'll ask Councillor Harvey, perhaps she'll you on that. And financial prudence, yes, we mustn't destroy what's been the strong position the council is in by being imprudent. So I'm not sure I quite recognise the increased new expense commitments. I think we're kind of looking at where we're spending our money. Most of this expenditure obviously goes on social care, which presents a significant issue as we go forward. Your second question was about waste management services. I'll definitely give that one to Councillor Davis, but first of all, Councillor Harvey, I think.
Councillor Harvey, you've got some clarification there for us, have you?
Yes, I have.
Thank you.
If Councillor Shaw was paying attention back in February, he would have noticed that we've actually got an MTFS which is aligned with the 4 years of our county plan. I wouldn't be proposing to extend it to 5 years and actually have a financial strategy that wasn't in alignment with a plan for how you spent the money. I think that's actually probably against our constitution. But we do have an MTFS which is aligned with the 4 years of our county plan, and that makes much more sense than a shorter term one.
Thank you. Can we then?
Councillor Davis, I wish to respond to the questionnaire. I think it's interesting to me that we've engaged with the Scrutiny Committee, and I think they've done some great work on this, and I don't know how that's sort of moving forward through the process. So there is consultation. It's a really big contract. Again, going to Alistair's point about working together, I think if we can work together on this waste contract, this is something which is going forward for future administrations. So just such an important thing where we work together. Councillor Davis.
That's actually my call. Thank you. But I will ask for Councillor Davis.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Shaw, for the question. It's a question that I get asked a lot. Why can't we stick with what we've currently got? It's unfortunately not an option. Our recycling rates are too low under the current conditions that we do, and the national government and regulations are coming in that say we have to have a much higher rate with recycling. I'm mega grateful to the Task and Finish group who did months of work on this, the Scrutiny Task and Finish group on waste. They did months of work on it, cross-party as well, because for me, waste shouldn't be political. And they come up with a number of recommendations that said only options 1 and 2 were going forward to be consulted on. And unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on what side of the coin you sit, is that the as per usual just isn't there as an option anymore.
Right, Councillor Stark and then Councillor Jim, please.
Thank you, Chair. The leader has rightly identified in his report what a challenging year this has been for the county, not just with the pandemic, or even with the flooding that certainly affected my ward. But we have a little matter of the possibility now of a no-deal Brexit facing us within the next few weeks. I would like to ask the leader, in that context, is he sufficiently happy that our risk procedures within the council are robust enough to deal with the challenges that are facing us? In particular, is he happy that we are identifying the right risks, managing them appropriately, and mitigating them when we need to? And if not, would he then agree with me that perhaps this is a timely point at which to review the risk processes within the council? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Leader.
I have asked about Brexit, and it might be that one of the officers would like to comment on the robustness of our plans. There are two aspects, I think. One is about the council itself, and how the council might be affected, and how the council itself is looking at it. But the broader issue is about the county and how well prepared the county is, and that's a much more difficult task, particularly bearing in mind the dependence we have on agriculture. I think we perhaps have some benefits in that we're not dependent on the service industry in quite the same way, like banking and financial services, which might be more impacted. So I don't know. I think it's an issue which perhaps has been looked at a little bit by the Risk and Audit Committee, but I wonder whether the monitoring officer could possibly comment on our preparations for.
Well, I think perhaps it is a very important issue, so I will allow her to comment on that.
Yes, thank you. I can confirm there is an officer group preparing for next year. We met yesterday actually to see where our plans are. We're currently being audited as well to ensure we're in a good position. The biggest risk we've got is we don't really know what's going to happen over the next couple of days. So I think we're in a good position as far as we know. The difficulty we have is we don't know what we don't know yet. So we are continuing to work as a group, and will do. We've also got information from the West Mercia area as well. We're dealing with it as an emergency plan, and that will assist us in the next coming days, I'm sure.
Thank you very much. I'm sure that's a very powerful little group you have there, and it's very important. And keep us up to date, will you? And no doubt, after Sunday, we may know a bit more. Crucial day, perhaps. Councillor Ginman, please. And then
could I come back?
Councillor Ginman, Councillor Bowes and Howells, who will be the last one, I hope.
Could I come back, Chair?
Yes.
My question hasn't been answered. It wasn't just about Brexit. I was asking the leader whether he felt our risk procedures within the council were robust enough in order to identify, manage and mitigate those risks that affect not only just ourselves in terms of Brexit, but ourselves in terms of delivering our plans. That's not been answered, Chair.
Right?
I think it's an interesting question, Councillor Stark, because where does to what detail should the leader and should the cabinet go into these things? We do ask the questions and we get the responses, which gives me the comfort that things are in place. And I'm satisfied, particularly in the context of the council, that for a long time back, I was asking the chief executive what plans were in place, and he's been looking at this for months and months and months. We've been going out of Europe and then staying in it, and there were conditions and all that kind of stuff. And the chief executive has had those ideas and thoughts in place for a long time, and I have been asking about that. I don't know whether the monitoring officer could again just answer that, because where does it sit on the risk register?
Monitoring officer.
Yeah, two things. So the new risk management plan was approved by Cabinet on the 26th September. Whether that's robust enough is under the auspices of the Audit and Governance Committee. They've had one report so far. It still needs work to embed the new process, but we're in a good place. And then in relation to the EU exit, it is on the corporate risk register in relation to our financial position, because we do not know what the financial impact of the exit will be. So that is on our corporate risk register.
Thank you very much. That's useful to know, I think. Councillor Ginman, Bowes and Howells. That should be the last one, I think. Draw to a close after
Thank you
that.
very much, Chairman. Leader, you quite rightly in your report have highlighted the importance of COVID this year and the way in which it has affected all within the county. You've quite rightly said that, and Councillor Davis just gave a very good support, a note of support for the staff here who have worked so hard within the county to work with and around this extraordinary disease and the problems it's caused. We as a council and as a cabinet, of course, are incredibly supportive of businesses in the county and remain supportive of businesses. And I'm sure you would join with me in saying that cabinet wishes all businesses well. As a county dependent upon tourism, we realise that there is a huge issue with regard to hospitality and how that will go on in the coming year. But, and this, I suppose, is my warning and concern, and I'm sure you will join with me, there are, for many in the county, going to be an empty chair at the Christmas table this year. We've all have people we've lost. We've all had friends who've died of COVID. So my sort of salutary wish and concern is that in supporting the businesses, in making sure this Christmas can be enjoyable for as many as possible, that we don't lose sight of the importance of the measures to stop the spread of this disease. Because I am sure that we all appreciate that come the new year, it is very likely this disease will be with us right the way through till April until we get vaccination at the very least. And it is therefore dependent upon us and on our very hard-working staff to try to ensure people remember the rules that will stop the spread. And Leader, I hope you will endorse that in the way I know you have done and worked so hard so far to achieve.
Leader, I'm sure you will be endorsing and encouraging us to be well behaved.
Yes, absolutely. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to have heard people being concerned that after Christmas, within 10 days, we're going to see another spike. That there seems to be just an acceptance that's going to happen. Of course, it doesn't have to happen. I think if people are just sensible, look after each other, don't get too close to people, don't have too long in one room with people. It has to be balanced with with mental health and issues and concerns with that and the economy. But I just do encourage, as Councillor Ginman said, just encourage people to be cautious as we approach Christmas. We've managed to get the rate per 100,000 come down to somewhere around 50. Which is amongst the lowest in the country. That's been achieved in a remarkably quick space of time, which has amazed me. I just hope we can continue with that level, continue to behave the way we are at the moment, and that will save lives, literally.
Thank you. Yes, it's a conflict between freedom of personal movement, etc., and the demands of society, perhaps, and also the economy. Thank you. Councillor Bowes, and then Councillor Howells. Councillor Crockett's a late entrant. I hope it's a brief one too.
Thank you. I just wanted to make a comment about the waste. The General Scrutiny Committee did consider several options for the waste plans going forward, and they recommended not to put forward the current working as it wouldn't reach government targets on recycling. So that actually went before the General Scrutiny Committee, and that was the recommendation of the General Scrutiny Committee not to move forward with the current ways of working. I just wondered if the leader would agree with me that we should be very proud of the work of our officers in getting out the COVID grants so quickly in November. We've had lots of positive feedback from businesses, so I wanted to say well done to everybody involved. I've certainly had lots of positive feedback from local business people saying how grateful they were to get the money so quickly. And just as a final, I just wanted to say I think it's excellent news that we're aiming for a revised constitution to be adopted in May 2021. delivering an enhanced scrutiny and improved involvement for all our councillors in shaping policy and making decisions. So I think that's an excellent move.
Leader, do you have any
I'll just deal with
response?
one question really, or statement.
Question, it should all be questions.
Yes, I agree with you, Councillor Barris, particularly in relation to the money which has come through from government to support local businesses. I think it was done very, very quickly, and there's another amount of money in availability, which I think is more discretionary, but that is available to help local businesses. So I hope that businesses do make requests. I think one of the interesting elements of COVID is that our information about local businesses is now so much better than it was before. I think we can reach out to them and work with them, and hopefully they with us much better in the future. So I agree with you, Councillor Bowes.
Thank you. So a little silver lining here and there. That's good. Councillor Howells.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I was pleased to read in the Leader's report item 14D on affordable housing, because this really, as we all know, is one of the key issues facing people in Hertfordshire, how they can buy houses. There just aren't enough for people to buy and afford. And it's a bit of a personal passion of mine, because we all, the developers proudly say that they deliver 40% of affordable, but there's different definitions of that, and what they class as affordable are 80% of market price. So you're lucky if you can get a house at anything less than 250,000. When we know that average population in Herefordshire of 23, I think, means that we're looking for houses of less than 100k, which the developers just don't want to build. And as chair of Ledbury's Neighbourhood Development Plan, I'm also very well aware, as most of us are, that Herefordshire is increasingly the target of people who want to move from the cities with money to buy expensive houses. And particularly Ross and Ledbury are right in the forefront of that. So there's like real pressure on developers wanting to build lots of houses, people want to move to Herefordshire, but finding the land that actually we want to build for affordable. And it's a conflict which we have to somehow manage. We're lucky in Ledbury, we have got one site where actually developers agreed to deliver literally 100% affordable, which is great news. So we're perhaps meeting our contribution, but both the NDP and our Economic Development Planning Committee, we're really anxious to do and promote more. So my question and suggestion to the leader is that this should not just be a top-down process. I think you should be, and I'm suggesting we should do this, work more closely with local development plan committees like my own to help identify this pipeline that we desperately need. And I think two combinations in helping to build settlement boundaries linked to policies and appropriate policies that we can use to give appropriate priority to affordable housing, rather than developers wanting to build increasingly the community type expensive houses, which they're going to do and are increasingly pressurising to do. And in particular, take into account that the whole planning law needs to be, is suggested to be changed. I think that's going to make it even more difficult for us and easier for the developers to build the big houses they want. So what I'm suggesting is there should be much more coordination with the local parishes to help us see if we can develop settlement boundaries and policies that will help us to build more affordable housing.
Thank you. Leader, do you have a response to that?
Yes, thank you. I agree with you that we need to intervene in the market to provide affordable homes. I don't think there's any other way that it will happen. So if we want to enable people locally to be buying houses, we are going to have to intervene. So we are working towards that, dipping our toes in the market to see how we can do that. The idea of bottom up, I note that, and we do have neighbourhood development plans in which land is identified for building, and it's not every parish that then wants to have 100% affordable building. But I think if there's any county in the country that will welcome that sort of thing, I would hope that Herefordshire is the one. I think we are so dependent on agriculture and tourism. From the agricultural side, we need to have houses that people can afford. We want to encourage people to stay in the county. It's great that we've become attractive to people coming in from outside, but we do need to look after our own people who are here at the moment. So I think we'll perhaps take away a little bit of your thought there, Councillor Howes, about something which I very much agree with, and whether we have further consultation with parish councils, asking them to offer up sites which could be used for that. We perhaps need to factor that into our thinking as we go forward. And Tyler, I see Councillor Tyler is nodding her head, so but we'll take that on. I think. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Leader. That sounds interesting. Councillor Crockett, final speaker or final questioner, and the question is.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm sorry if you thought I was a late entry, but I was trying to catch it right at the end so that I could put my positive points and question to the leader at this end part of the meeting. First of all, I'd like to applaud him for recognising in points 9.3 to 9.6 on his report about the super work that has gone on, the positive actions that Adults and Communities Directorate have done during this pandemic. We've worked really hard with partners. We've got Hillside up and running. And again, my thanks goes to Councillor Roan for his support in that facility that is in his ward. I can also count myself as a Southsider because I lived there for many years. So hopefully, Councillor Roan, you're not excluding me. Yeah, Hillside Kitchens has been really important. Councillor Toynbee's alluded to that. And we must really, again, thank all those officers that have been working very hard to get this pandemic under sort of control in Herefordshire. So my question, if I have to put one at the end of all that, is...
Well, that's the whole point. It is questions to the leader.
Can I ask the leader for his continued support during this extreme time? And I'm sure I know the answer. I just wanted to make the points.
Leader.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Crocker. Yes, absolutely agree with that. And yes, thank you, Councillor Roan, for helping with that. And I'll go back again to the comment made by Alistair about working together. We are stronger when we're working together. That doesn't mean to say we can't be criticised, and we'll end up with better decisions through scrutiny and everything else. So it's a very good way to end the year, Councillor Crockett. Thank you for your observations.
Thank you, Leader. And I will note your report, and we'll note the comments made as well and the questions raised. And you should remember, please, it is questioning the leader, not just having comments made. We'll have an adjournment now for 10 minutes.
Anyway.
Off.
There you are.
It says, my
You
screen says meeting is now streaming live on Custom Live streaming service.
Just 1 second, Chairman. I want to confirm that we are live. Bear with me.
Right.
Okay, Chairman.
Right. Please can members ensure their cameras are turned back on where possible. And I hope you can now hear and see me as well. Come to item number 9. Motions on notice. Before we commence the debate on the motions, I ask members to be succinct with their comments and to avoid repeating those points already made, so that those members who wish to speak have every opportunity to do so. This item is limited to 1 hour and 30 minutes, and generally, unless a point of order is raised, may I remind you that only the proposer of the motion has the right to speak more than once. And the first motion is that this council bestow upon Lady Darnley the title of Honorary Free Woman of Herefordshire. And I will introduce my motion, if I may. I wish to ask members at full council to award Lady Darnley the honour of being appointed an Honorary Free Woman of Herefordshire. I speak mainly in my capacity as Chairman of Herefordshire Council and an elected representative of the people of Herefordshire in relation to this proposed nomination. Wherever I have attended events within the county with Lady Darnley, as Lord Lieutenant or in a private role, she has been deeply respected and, may I say, loved in all instances. She has that magic ability to interact effortlessly with everyone she meets, while always retaining their respect and regard as a representative on behalf of Her Majesty the Queen and Lord Lieutenant of Herefordshire, a role which she has fulfilled to perfection. Always dignified, but never stuffy, she is adept at seeing the funny side of things and putting people at their ease, turning what might have been a rather dull or pompous event into something that instantly becomes relaxed and enjoyable. Having said this, she has always been able instantly to sense where formality and solemnity was appropriate and could be the epitome of the representative of the monarch while still retaining that easy link with her audience. As chairman of Herefordshire Council, it has been my great privilege to get to know Lady Darnley in a wide variety of settings, from accompanying members of the royal family on official visits to the county, to seeing her in deep conversation with military cadets as they went about their training in rough parts of army training areas. I cannot remember her ever being daunted by any circumstance that came her way, nor ever being stumped for suitable words appropriate to the people to whom she was talking. She certainly had the ability to talk to anyone, literally from our most valued frontline workers to royal dukes, and treating them with all the same respect and good humor. I've been impressed by the way that Lady Darnley has established an excellent rapport with the council itself and has done her very effective best to ensure this close cooperation bears fruit in better working between the lieutenancy and the council and better outcomes in that local organizations, from village shops to small and bigger businesses, get the encouragement and support that make such a difference to their morale and success. Lady Darnley is always well briefed and is genuinely interested in all those she meets, and her genuine interest and easy communication leaves an indelible impression upon all those she meets. All in all, Herefordshire has been very well blessed to have had the inestimable benefit of having had Lady Darnley as an outstandingly excellent, cheerful, and unflappable Lord Lieutenant. And I'm sure you will wish to join me in wishing her very well in her retirement, and I'm very sure she will keep a very close eye on all that goes on in Herefordshire. What more fitting way to mark our farewells to a great citizen and a great representative of Her Majesty the Queen than by awarding the highest possible honour that this council can bestow, that of Honorary Freewoman of Herefordshire. So I do hope you will support me in this endeavour. As seconder, Councillor Matthews, do you wish to speak now or reserve your right until later?
I will speak now, Chairman. You've done a very good presentation, so I'll just change the tone a little bit, if I may. First time I had one-to-one conversations with Lady Darnley was at Letton Church a few years ago. I had just arrived for the morning service and much to my surprise was closely followed in by Lord and Lady Darnley. After the service, I had a brief conversation with her and was informed that her visit was in respect of a grant application for church repairs. I was most impressed to see them, and it goes without saying, that was proof that the old county was important to them and had their full support. My next meeting, Chairman, with her was at a civic event at Council Headquarters, Brockington. When she arrived, I was sat with others at a table to the rear of the council chamber, and after a few minutes, she walked across and joined us. She asked me what I did before becoming a councillor, and I informed her that I'd served as a police officer with West Mercia Constabulary. She informed me that her son-in-law had joined the Thames Valley Police a few weeks previously. She then inquired to see if I'd experienced any particular incidents of interest during my service, which I could readily recall. I informed her that my first arrest after a few weeks in the job was the chairman of the city magistrates. And when I informed her of a few of the facts, she burst out laughing. By this time, all the other dignitaries had their eyes on us and were awaiting Lady Darnley to commence the meeting. We then again met, Chairman, when she opened the Queen's Jubilee Fields at Brainton. And afterwards, over a cup of tea, we had a lengthy chat about ward issues and things generally. I then had I then had the cheek to ask her if she would consider standing for council as an independent after completing her duties as Lord Lieutenant. I was pleasantly surprised by her response, which will of course remain private. Lady Darnley, just to remind you, if you're listening, my telephone number is 760-498. I mention these incidents just to show the sort of person she is, neutral and always treating everyone alike. And that's why she was such a highly regarded Lord Lieutenant and did so much to enhance the reputation of this county. I have great pleasure in seconding the Chairman's proposal to bestow upon Lady Darnley the title of Honorary Freeman of the County of Herefordshire. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much, Councillor Matthews. That's a very fine commendation, I think. Now I have the leader and then Councillor Chance and Tyler and Phillips. In that order, please.
I really can't add very much to what's been said. I think your words were very appropriate, Chairman, and I like your anecdotes, Councillor Matthews. I think Lady Darnley has an extraordinary ability to make people feel at ease, and I do thank her for all her work over the years. I have met her on a number of occasions, and I just think that she thoroughly deserves this particular honour to be given to her. So I'm fully in support of this motion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Leader. That's good to hear. Councillor Chance.
Thank you. Colleagues, I'm really sorry, but with regret, I can't support this nomination, and I just wanted to explain why. I've got nothing whatsoever against Lady Darnley. She sounds like an absolutely lovely woman. I've never met her. I would love to. She sounds wonderful. I fully understand Councillor Bowen's commendation of her and the comments from others, but I'd just like to ask you all to consider, I don't feel this nomination is consistent with the intention of the Honorary Freemen and Free Women scheme. So this was established in 2017 to honour people for outstanding commitment and exemplary service. And it was actually introduced here kind of in response, I understand, to the example of other local authorities who wanted to honour Olympians and Paralympians. And the only other Freeman that we have is Sasha Kindred, who was honoured for his 20-year career as an Olympian, a Paralympian, for representing the country as well as the county. The policy limits the number to 4, and it's a lifetime award. So it's really, as people have said, it's a very, very special award. And while undoubtedly Lady Darnley has done her job absolutely admirably and is a wonderful person in so many ways, as people have described, I don't feel it's within the spirit of the scheme to award it to somebody for doing her job very well and being an admirable person. I also feel that, you know, Lady Darnley already holds another title on the basis of heredity. It already is honoured in many ways in our community. And at this time where we've just been through this period of, you know, so many difficulties this year, I think it would perhaps send the wrong signal. I would like to ask colleagues to consider whether we should identify somebody in the community who's demonstrated outstanding commitment and eminent service to the community in this time of COVID, who isn't already a recipient of other honours, you know, at this time where everybody's had to go above and beyond. So I'd like to ask colleagues to consider the signal that it would send to bestow this very rare lifetime honour on somebody who is already very honoured, perhaps outside the spirit with which this scheme was, I understand it, originally conceived, without taking away at all from, you know, our united gratitude to Lady Darnley for this to the community.
Thank you, Councillor Chance. I have to disagree with you entirely. I think you are wrong, but I understand you appreciate her dedication, etc. I think she has given exemplary service,
Chairman,
and outstanding service.
Chairman,
yes?
Can I just ask whether you're speaking in your role as the proposer or as the chairman, as the neutral chair of this debate?
I'm speaking now in my role as proposer. Sorry. Let me just make that sure. So just to think that, but you're obviously fully entitled to your opinion, and we shall have no doubt other opinions given as well. And I shall listen to them all with interest. But I'm saying for my own self, as proposer of this motion, that I think she does deserve this honour very greatly. And you have to remember that she has put a huge
Chairman,
yes.
May I ask the monitoring officer to inform us whether it is normal practice for the proposer of a motion to respond to comments made by others during the debate?
The rules on motion is the proposer has 3 minutes to speak.
I've had my time. Thank you. Councillor Tyler.
Thank you, Chairman. I've read your report in admiration, actually, for Lady Darnley. I've had the pleasure of meeting Lady Darnley in relation to my daughter's charity, and obviously my huge road safety campaigns for Herefordshire to keep our roads safe as best as we can. Her commitment to my charity and what she has done for the voluntary organisations across Herefordshire is exemplary. She does care, she has that passion, and she understands everybody's concern about how charities should be listened to and supported across businesses as well as the council. She's a lovely, caring lady, and I remember the evening I did receive an award from her for the Hereford and Worcester Fire and Rescue Service. I was in the floods of tears, but her caring attitude made me realise how important that evening was to me and my daughter's charity. So I do support your motion, and I do wish her well in her endeavours moving in her retirement. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Now, Councillor Phillips, Hay, Watson and Norman in that order.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, I would support the nomination of Lady Darnley to become a free woman of the county. It is difficult. We have created this position, but having said that, I think Lady Darnley was exemplary in the way that she carried out her role. She brought dignity to the office and intelligence to the office, and above all, she modernised it as far as Herefordshire was concerned. And I think what she also did was very correctly reward community and voluntary work and give it a much higher profile than it had been before. It's not surprising, those of us who've known her for a long time will know, of course, that she was a long-serving magistrate and JP with an extremely good service in the probation service and understood very much about vulnerable people. She was very ably supported by her husband for much of that time. And I think that it is only correct that we as a county recognise the work that she does. It is very difficult to identify single individuals for this award. And when you start to identify single, 4 would never be enough. But I think on this occasion, because of the way that she has carried out that role over the years, and because of putting Herefordshire on the map and giving us some civic pride across the county, I certainly am very pleased to support it.
Thank you very much, Councillor Phillips. That's very well said. Councillor Hay.
Thank you, Chairman. Well, obviously, just echoing some of the comments that have just been made by Councillor Tyler and Councillor Phillips. I've had the great pleasure of working alongside Lady Darnley in my capacity as Mayor for the past year before she retired. So obviously I saw her at work, and I think very much this is based on having been there and seen what the extent of what Lady Darnley did throughout the county. Is very much going to feed your opinion of this motion. I think this motion is very much in the spirit of the Freeman philosophy, which is that outstanding contribution to the county, and Lady Darnley has very much fulfilled that that remit. She as has been said, very much down to earth and very much of the people, despite her honours. And obviously, I don't think there should be a limit on the number of honours people can receive in life if they deserve them. And I particularly remember her work as patron of St John's Ambulance and all the fantastic work she did with young people. I saw her engage with the young people and take a great interest in all the work that St John's Ambulance do, which, as we know, is incredibly impactful throughout the county. So I would very much support this motion, and say echo all the positive things that have been said thus far.
Thank you, Councillor Hay. Councillor Watson.
Good afternoon, Chair. You'll have to excuse my ignorance, but what privileges are actually given to a free man or free woman of Hereford?
It's an honour, and it has no material benefits otherwise, no free parking, nothing like that, I'm afraid. It is just an honour and an appreciation of exemplary and outstanding service.
Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Norman.
Thank you, Chair. I understand where Councillor Chowns is coming from, but I actually disagree with her. I'm a Republican. I have my doubts about the role, the civic role of Lord Lieutenant and some of the others as well. But in this case, my understanding is we're honouring this person who I think, I agree with every point that's been made by the chairman, has done a remarkable job and has shown a particular humanity and humour and consideration for very ordinary people, very ordinary projects, as well as some of the bigger and grander ones. So my support is for her as a person who I think deserves this honour, although, as I say, I have some doubts about some of the civic roles and as I say, I speak as a Republican as well. So yes, I am in favour of this and will support it.
Thank you very much, Councillor Norman. Councillor Lester.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, I'm happy to support this motion, and I support all of the comments that have been made by fellow councillors in support of this motion, and for the reasons they've articulated very well. In the discussion, you've heard just now all of the ways in which Lady Darnley has involved herself with many organisations in many different ways that a lot of the time don't necessarily get noted, but she has been there relentlessly trying to campaign for all manner of community issues and awareness. But it's also that role that she's played as that necessary link to various community interests and various charities, and she has that wonderful human touch, as Councillor Matthews has said and others have said. And yes, it's a shame that we only have 4 positions in which to honour people, but if you can't honour somebody like Lady Darnley for her unstinting commitment, I don't know who you can. And so I'm really in favour of this motion, and I hope that others will be able to support it too.
Thank you very much, Councillor Lester. Councillor Rowan.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'm. Some things that Councillor Chowns said are absolutely accurate. People should not be rewarded for doing the job that they've chosen to do. And if you think about every civil servant who plugs in 25 years in Westminster or in the great halls of Whitehall, they immediately, almost without doubt, get knighted. But that said, I would support today's notice of motion. Lady Darnley, I met her many times. She was a very frequent visitor to the Kindle Centre. And if I can just indulge you for 30 seconds, about 3 or 4 years ago, one particular Christmas, we had about 105 guests. And we extended the invitation to various members of the Council Officer Corps to come along and wait on tables. And lo and behold, Lady Darnley and her husband arrived, Lady Lord Darnley. Now, I looked at Mandy Evans, who's the centre manager. She looked at me and thought, how best can we use these 2 very well-known characters? So we put them as front of house. They welcomed over 100 guests from the South Wine, nearly all ladies, all over 70, a lot over 80. Some even older, and she was able to communicate with them absolutely naturally, perfectly on their level, and around and spoke to people at the different tables for the whole 2.5 hours that she was there. She's a natural, excellent lady, and of course, being holding the position, it isn't salaried, it was actually done because she lives where she lives. So I would support it, but I totally agree with what Councillor Chan said. You shouldn't be rewarded for doing your job, not with a title anyway.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Councillor Rowan. Councillor Jansen, are you still wishing to speak? Or have you withdrawn your up at one stage? In which case I'll go on to Councillor J. Sorry?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I was up, but Councillor Watson took my question really, because I was just thinking my eldest son is Freeman of the City of London, and so therefore he has the privilege of herding sheep across the river. And I was just wondering what advantages Lady Darnley would be able to have when she was appointed.
I don't think she's even going to be allowed to drive sheep across the bridge. Well, of course, cause a traffic jam as well, but I'm afraid there are no privileges like that at all. But thank you.
Can I just very quickly add to that, please? I've just written a little thing from our magazine on humility. And one of the things, an example of humility is cleaning the bathroom of your office, even though you own the company. And Lady Darnley is prepared to do just that. Thank you.
You're quite right. Thank you. And I've seen her in action cleaning the bugle in my chairman's office. Councillor James.
Thank you, Chairman. I wholeheartedly support this motion. I have to say, I think if we have only 4 positions as such as Freeman, at any time if we have someone beyond that 4 that we think is deserving of that, I think we should change the rules. I don't think we need to be like the City of London, where there are literally thousands of freemen of the city, City of London. But I do think that her work as the Lord Lieutenant and the way in which she conducted that is well worthy of this particular honour in the county.
Thank you very much, Councillor James. Councillor Shaw.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I think looking at time and the fact we've got another motion, which unfortunately now I won't be able to contribute to because I have another meeting at 1 o'clock. Can I put under section 4.1.121A of the Constitution that the question now be put?
Yes, I take your point. And I think we have had quite an elaborate discussion already on this particular matter. And I think I have nothing more to add, except to say, please, can we move to the vote? And can Democratic Services display the proposed motion, which is that this council bestow upon Lady Darnley the title of Honorary Freewoman of Herefordshire. And the voting options for, against, and abstain have been added to the electronic voting system. The options are now on screen. If you are unable to see the voting options, please access the poll icon at the bottom of your screen. And please can members vote for, against, or abstain. And remember, when you cast your vote, ensure you press submit after selecting the option for which you are voting.
Chairman, I'm afraid that the submit button is not working again on the poll.
No.
Yeah, you'll have to redo it again, Chair.
Can we recast the poll, please? Try and get it done this time.
Chairman, there are 47 members eligible to vote, and they can vote now.
Thank you.
My button's still disabled.
We can take a verbal vote, I think.
Chair, just to confirm, we are outstanding that one vote, which presumably is Councillor Harvey's.
Yes.
Councillor Harvey, are you happy to do it via the chat to me? Your vote. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Sorry about that. So Can the monitoring officer declare the results, please?
Votes are 36 for, 3 against, 8 abstentions. So the motion is approved.
Thank you very much indeed. I thank you for your support. That is very much appreciated. And now, motion 2, climate and ecological emergency, proposed by Councillor William Wilding, seconded by Councillor Alyssa Swinglehurst. Councillor Wilding, please will you introduce your motion? You have 5 minutes for that.
Thank you, Chair. I'm not going to take 5 minutes because I think we've had a nice long meeting already. So I'm hoping we won't have need for much discussion about this. The heavy lifting's already done when the council declared a climate emergency in 2019. Obviously, I applaud the previous administration doing that and all the other things that previous administrations have done, like the Beryl bikes and stuff like that. So I'm not trying to criticise that. I just think, given that we do have an ecological emergency as well as a climate emergency, I think it's a good idea that we just up our game and convert our previous motion into this one. So therefore, I'm just going to leave it at that and hope that other members can support this motion. Thanks.
Thank you. As a seconder, Councillor Swinglehurst, do you wish to speak now or reserve your right until later?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll speak now if I may. My internet connection is extremely fragile today. So I'll take advantage of the fact that I seem to have a signal. So thank you very much. I was really pleased to be asked by Councillor Wilding to second his motion on notice, because there are other members who would be a more obvious choice, but I feel that he's reached out so that we can all metaphorically or virtually perhaps hold hands across the political divide. The debate is a chance for the whole council to speak with one voice, as we did when we declared the climate emergency in March 2019. The ecological emergency, I feel, was a silent partner in that debate. And now we've got the chance to give it voice, to speak for the rivers and the hills of Herefordshire, the woodland, the meadow, the curlew, and the water vole, for all the natural wonders of our pleasant pastures. We have an amazing environment in Herefordshire, but we have seen the impact of human activity on the fragile ecosystems around us. In May this year, an algal bloom in the Wye wiped out 70 miles of the keystone species Ranunculus. And the story of 2020 is encapsulated for me by the Wye riverkeeper George Woodward, as he acknowledged that as a result of the loss of the Ranunculus, no viable swan broods were reported, cygnets having starved to death, aquatic and invertebrate life eradicated over a large stretch of the river. It's all gloom and doom. We're doomed, is what he said. The poor water quality is also having a devastating economic impact in the county. Millions of pounds lost to the local economy. These are real consequences. The ecology of the river is being wiped out, but so are businesses and individuals who are trying to build homes for themselves and others. So let's be clear. The causes of the nutrients in the river are shared between agriculture and sewage treatment, but not shared evenly. Due to the efforts of Welsh Water, the larger part of the problem, around 70%, now comes from agricultural diffuse sources. To my mind, the clear and present danger is environmental and ecological. The loss of insects, pollution of our rivers, collapse of soil structure, loss of the organisms and microbial activity that promote good soil health and fertility. As Michael Gove has said, no country can withstand the loss of its soil, and no county can either. We all have a responsibility. We can't outsource it, we have to own it. We make a million decisions that are individually insignificant, but cumulatively, when we share the planet with 7.8 billion other people. When I was born, it was 3.2 billion. When my mother was born, it was 1.8 billion. Think about that. Everything we do has an impact of one sort or another, and we have to cultivate the habit of weighing our needs against the needs of other species, with which we share the planet, and with the planet's ability to support us. That is, I suppose, the point of this notice, to raise awareness of the need to be mindful and not to take the natural world for granted. We need to treat it as the precious and finite resource that it is, and to ingrain that habit of thinking into the processes and policies of this council. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Swinglehurst. And I have one speaker so far, Councillor Chance. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. I'd like to really warmly welcome this motion and thank both Councillor Wilding and Councillor Swinglehurst for bringing it forward. Echo everything that Councillor Swinglehurst has just outlined. And I think, you know, the point about integrating this into everything that we do as a council is really important, and work we are already doing, as will be clear, for example, in the Minerals and Waste Local Plan that's coming to our meeting just next week, where we have sought to address the problem, the very real problem of agricultural pollution and the devastating impacts it's having on our waterways, as Councillor Swinglehurst has so ably outlined. As colleagues will know, our administration is committed to bringing forward a nature strategy to address this. And I agree, Councillor Wilding, you know, this consciousness of the ecological emergency has been implicit in everything we've been doing in the last 18 months, but you're right, it wasn't written in there. So I really welcome this kind of clarification of that and hope we'll have the unanimous support for this as we did previously. And just to respond to Councillor Swinglehurst's point about the kind of, you know, our weight on the planet, as it were, you know, it was striking just this week, you might have seen this news story that the total volume of stuff created by humans now outweighs all of living matter on the planet. You know, that's really quite extraordinary. And it brings home the point that it's not just the number of people, it isn't just population, it's consumption. Is what we all consume. So at individual level, we can do something about this ourselves too, but also so important to integrate it into what we do as a council. So I really welcome this. Thank you both very much.
Thank you, Councillor Chance. I have Councillor Johnson and Councillor Harvey.
Thank you, Chairman. If I pick up very quickly on a point that Councillor Chance has just made, the recent statement that man-made things now outweigh all living things. Of course, it is worth remembering that all the things that man has made were from materials that already existed on the earth. We didn't drag them in from space. So the net result of all of that is rather dubious, I have to say. But I support the motives of this motion, but I do have a concern that we may, by restricting, perhaps come to regret policies that we've made without clear evidence or empirical observation. Anything with the potential to adversely affect the economy should, I believe, and I'm sure everyone would agree with me, be the subject of rigorous debate and scrutiny. And this ghastly pandemic that we're currently experiencing has shown clearly that anything you do which restricts the movement of people has dreadful effects on jobs, incomes, and welfare. My only concern, and it may be slight, but my concern is that we are perhaps creating a stick with which we will be subsequently beaten when there come difficult times when we're having to make choices between the economy, that's people's livelihood, etc., and the environment. There are a huge number of completely uncontentious issues upon which we can all agree. Plastics in the ocean, alternative fuels, water that Councillor Swinglehurst has made. It never made sense to me to see farmers, you know, for us to be paying subsidies for farmers to pour chemicals on the land which leach off into the waters and then pay another fortune to get it cleaned up before we can pump it through the pipe to drink it. That's never made sense to me, and we should be doing something about those things. Packaging, all of these things we should be addressing. And I'm not suggesting this motion is driven by virtue signalling or gesture politics, like so many of the more hysterical claims that we hear regularly. On the contrary, I applaud the motives of this motion. But I believe we should convene special meetings to thoroughly investigate ways of protecting and improving our environment. Our policies, in my view, should be guided by objective, considered evidence. I look forward to the rest of the debate, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. There's some interesting remarks there, I think. As you all have made. Councillor Harvey.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I'm a beekeeper, and you know, other beekeepers like me realise what a difficult time we are having keeping our bees alive at the moment. It's a real struggle. They fail to thrive. Their colony collapses. We're just nursing them along, and I haven't taken honey off my bees for 3 years on the trot now. I'm allowing them to keep their honey just because I think it's better for them to try and get through the winter on their own stores. But it's a struggle, and that's just one facet of this ecological emergency that, you know, we don't necessarily note, everybody doesn't necessarily notice happening around us. I can remember as a child having the buddleia bushes in my grandparents' garden absolutely covered with butterflies. And I can remember standing in a cloud of those butterflies. Now, my daughter has grown up pointing a butterfly out as an exception rather than the rule in our garden. Generally, insects are on the decline. We've got Insectageddon. Now, you know, most of us might think of them as creepy crawly bugs and frightening bitey weevily creatures that we don't necessarily want to spend too much time with, but insects are fantastically important, a massively important part of the whole cycle of life on this planet, and they're disappearing. Soil health is at risk. We've seen just recently in the last few days the level of national public concern at the works that have gone on one of our rivers, a river that I've always thought of as a little river in Herefordshire, the Lug. It's a beautiful little river, but I never realised how many people hold it, you know, close to their hearts, and what an important wildlife sanctuary and important SSSI that river system represents. Anyone who, like me, has spent most of this year in lockdown will have done their very best to spend time out of doors in their own gardens. And listening to the songbirds when we didn't have the skies full of aeroplane vapor trails, and we were actually able to hear because there wasn't the traffic on the roads, was fantastic. But generally our songbirds are, again, massively in decline. One of the first hymns that we teach our children at school is All Things Bright and Beautiful, and quite often that's also a hymn that people ask for in their marriage services, because it reminds them of their childhood, but also because it kind of sings of the earth and all of the things that we celebrate, all our creatures great and small. I find it very poignant going to primary school services, hearing the children sing this hymn. Enjoy doing it, but I do worry about what creatures, great and small, they will have to talk to their own children about in the future. We do have an ecological emergency. I'm really happy to support this motion. It's one word, but it stands for so very much. I do understand Councillor Johnson's concern that, you know, we must, whilst walking lightly on this earth, find a way of living in a 21st century way. But where better to example that than here in Herefordshire, where we're lucky enough to be surrounded by such beautiful and still relatively unspoilt environment. And I think we've got a fantastic opportunity to, you know, help other people find a way to do things differently. So I'm really happy to support this motion, and I thank Councillor Wilding and Councillor Swinglehurst for proposing and seconding it here today.
Thank you, Councillor Harvey. I now have Councillor Stark, Rowan and Marsh. So Councillor Stark, all yours.
Thank you, Chair. I mean, I support this motion because it does have a positive economic impact on the county. And the reason why I say that is the ecological emergency is the hidden enemy to Herefordshire. We've already talked previously about the visitor economy, and we've talked about funding being found for the visitor economy. But the problem with the visitor economy, it needs visitors. And you need a positive image of your natural environment to encourage those visitors to come here. The ecological emergency that has happened over the last few years has damaged this county. I mean, we are getting press reports in the River Wye which are unwelcomed. And so this isn't just adding an extra word to a policy statement. This is showing positive commitment by this county to start looking at the ecology side as well as the climate side, to make sure that whatever policies we're bringing forward, we are actually helping our natural environment to not only to recover, but hopefully to enhance it. Because at the end of the day, Councillor Johnson, there will be an economic impact here as well, because we will have fewer visitors in the long run. I support this motion. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor.
Chairman, can I interrupt? Sorry, we've come to the 3 hours, so you need to have to make a determination now whether to continue the meeting or whether we defer the meeting. We put the matter to the vote.
May I suggest we continue the meeting? Because there are not that many more speakers, and I hope we will get this business done today. Are you in agreement with that? Do we carry on? I think we have general agreement to finish this motion and continue the meeting. Are you content with that, Monitoring Officer? Thank you. Councillor Rowan, Marsh, Howells, Norman and Watson, and that'll be it.
You can bypass me, Chair.
Bypass you, right? Thank you. Councillor Marsh.
Yes, thank you very much. I do understand Councillor Johnson's idea, and I wish very much that we did have considerably better records than we do. Sadly, in the last few years, the Environment Agency have been massively under-resourced, and there are less monitoring sites on the River Wye. Natural England has had massive funding cuts, again, resulting in much less ability to monitor. We ourselves have had to cut posts. And so we absolutely, I agree with him, we don't have the records we want. And I hope very much we will move as much as we can to harnessing whatever citizen science and other ways of getting information in. I've just been looking at our own Biological Records Centre, and there is on our website a little form where people can put in records themselves, but at the moment it still isn't particularly user-friendly. So I very much welcome this and hope that we will, as much as possible, use the crowdsource information about our wonderful habitats in this county and our species, so that we will be better able to monitor this emergency, which I profoundly believe is one that is occurring, and so support the motion.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Howells.
Sorry, turning my Chairman.
Technology.
At first I wasn't going to speak on this because I thought it's about semantics, but actually, having think about it, it's not at all about semantics. And we've lost something like 60% of all wildlife in the world in the last literally few decades. The scientists say we're very clearly in the 6th extinction age, and this is all man-made. And I have a lot of sympathy with what Councillor Johnson says. It's obviously sincere and well meant, and we all know it's a problem, that the economy should take precedence over everything. And obviously we have to find what is safe and sustainable. But this is what we have to recognise. It is simply unsustainable to keep saying we have to have economic growth, because that is the very thing that's causing the problem that we're having. So it isn't about the economy. It's the biggest mistake we're making in saying we have to put that above all else. Of course, we have to make sure, as I say, we all live sustainable lives, but we should adopt other measures to say what a good life is all about. It isn't just about the economy. Quality of life is, and sustainability of life has to come first. And I'm moved by one of the most profound jokes I saw in recent times. Dinosaurs walking over the earth, a meteor coming overhead, and the dinosaurs saying to each other just before they were wiped out, "Oh, the economy." That's exactly the position that we human beings are in at the moment, unless we take far more seriously the problems. Biodiversity loss affects us all, and the world in which we live, we're destroying it. And we don't recognize that at our own peril, because it isn't just other creatures, it is us that face survival as well. So I think we should support this change to clearly show that we do recognize climate change has survival threats to all creatures, including us, and that we need to do more than just looking at it as a climate change and reducing of emissions piece of work.
Thank you, Councillor Howells. Councillor Norman and then Councillor Watson to complete the list.
Thank you, Chair. Back in the 70s and 80s, it was very frustrating how frequently the media would put the environment on one side, the economy in the other, and constantly see them as in conflict. I think we've all learned since then that actually they have to work together, and I think we're probably all in agreement. Thank you for some very eloquent comments to that end from everyone else. I won't enlarge on them, but just really wanted to say how very important it is that we commit to this motion and recognise that a strong, healthy environment is an absolutely essential requirement for a strong, healthy economy. And that's the way we really have to work with them both together. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Norman. And Councillor Watson.
Thank you, Chair. Lucky last, and I won't be long. I support this motion, and I just want to pick up from Councillor Johnson's point, COVID, because for me, coronavirus is actually a symptom. The cause is the human encroachment and interference on the natural world. The economy and our environment are interlinked. COVID is a circuit breaker for humanity to recalibrate its value system. One relies on the other.
Thank you. Succinct, to the point. Thank you very much, Councillor Watson. I think that is all we have now. And can members indicate, no, we had all that, I think. Moving to the vote now. Unless Councillor...
Sorry, Chairman. The proposer has the ability to have a right of reply.
I was just going to come to that.
Sorry.
Sorry. Yes. I was just going to ask Councillor Wilding if he wishes to make any replies or further comments.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'm just happy that it appears most people are happy to support this motion. I'll just reinforce what everyone said about the economy having to go hand in hand with ecology. We have something fantastic in this county. We have an abundance of natural capital, which we are slowly destroying. So if we want to preserve that, we have to preserve it. There's no way around it. But I do agree that the economy is absolutely important. There are hundreds and thousands of jobs, not just in this county, but in the country, in the world, that are waiting to be invented that will help us cope with this crisis. We just have to find them. We just have to stop looking in the same old drawer, open another drawer and find another way to do it, which doesn't destroy the planet at the same time. That's all there is to it. I'm sorry, that's all there is to it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Councillor Wilding. And I hope you'll look in lots of drawers for us all as well and our new solutions. I look forward to seeing the contents. Now we come to moving to the vote. Please can Democratic Services display the proposed motion, confirm the voting and confirm the voting numbers. I will read out the motion that this council, already having declared a climate emergency in March 2019, wishes to strengthen its commitment by changing this declaration to now say that we declare a climate and ecological emergency. So, can we have the voting options for, against, and abstain to be shown on the electronic voting system? The options are now on screen. If you are unable to see the voting options, please access the poll icon at the bottom of your screen. And now, please can members vote for, against, or abstain? Please cast your vote and ensure you press submit after selecting the option for which you are voting. And let's hope submit works this time for everybody.
Chairman, there are 42 members remaining, 42 members eligible to vote now.
Thank you.
All votes are in, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Can the monitoring officer declare the results, please?
Thank you, Chairman. The votes are 37 for, 2 against and 3 abstain. I can confirm the motion has been carried.
Thank you very much indeed. That is excellent. And can we then go to item 10, which is the full council meeting dates 2020 to 21. The next meeting of council is the extraordinary meeting on the 15th of December at 2 p.m. And council is asked to agree the meeting dates for 2021-22 as contained on the agenda. Are there any comments on the dates, please? No comments?
Chairman, sorry, advance notice, I won't be able to attend next week, so apologies.
Sorry, I'm sorry about that. And there's of course always the possibility of calling an extraordinary meeting, but these are the main meetings we have. And you will see that they are on the 23rd of July 21, 8th of October 21, 10th December 21, 11th of February 22, 4th of March 22, and 20th of May 2022, which will be the annual meeting. Now, can we move to the vote? Please can Democratic Services display the proposed dates, which I've just read out, and confirm the voting number. And the voting options for, against, and abstain have been added to the electronic voting system. The options are now on screen. If you are able to see the voting options, please access the poll icon at the bottom of your screen. And members, please can you vote for, against, or abstain? Please cast your vote and ensure you press submit after selecting the option for which you are voting.
Chairman, I can declare that there are 42 members eligible to vote and they may vote now.
Thank you.
All votes are in, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Can the monitoring officer declare the results, please?
There was unanimous support for those dates. I can confirm they're the dates for the next municipal year.
Thank you very much indeed. That's good to hear. And as I said, we have the option to have emergency extraordinary meetings if we need them. So with that comment, I'd like to thank members of the public and councillors for their attendance at today's meeting. And the time is now 1:30, yes, 1:30 precisely, I think. And the meeting is now closed.